right, we are ready to begin the 2020 Santa Rosa County Great Debate. We do have some items that will be raffled off, and I say raffled, it's really more like a door prize because you don't need to buy the ticket. But if you have not gotten a ticket from Wallace Mayhew, raise your hand and she will deliver one to you, or you can get her in the back. She's got that black hat on. There's no charge for any of these tickets. These are door prizes. Some local businesses made a donation, and at the end of the event, we'll draw a ticket, and hopefully, not all of you can win. We don't have that many prizes, but several of you will win, and that'll be good.
We got tell them about the haircuts, and we got.
Well, why don't you tell them what the prizes are?
I will definitely do that. Some of our local providers of our prizes, we've gone to the extreme local businesses only, no corporations, period. We're about capitalism, self-entrepreneurship, and we want to increase that in Santa Rosa County in making the smaller man grow his business to be bigger and supportive so he can feed his own family. And by doing so, we went to some of these groups such as ACES, who likes to eat. Well, I got 4 gift cards up here for some nice dinners, so you're going to thank Big John when you go see Big John. You like Hall's Hardware? If you don't know who Hall's Hardware is, that's the place you go to when Walmart doesn't have it. Hall's Hardware has everything. So we have a nice gift card from them so you can go shopping. I suggest, I'm kind of a fan of cooking. I do like eating. That's enough in this gift card. You can go get a large cast iron pan and have a ball over a campfire this time of the year. And some of us need haircuts. Some of us can probably wait a year. But we got some nice gift cards up here for having your hair done, some nails done. We got some wrapped up. I don't even know what it is, but it's from the box says fine things. Well, I know they have some fine things in the store. That's what the sign says. One of the raffle gifts is a big 1-gallon can of Zatarain's fish fry. That'll help you out cooking with that Hall's Hardware gift card. Let's see what else we got up here. How about a wet and dry vac for your car? Well, if you saw my truck, I'd need a shovel. But that's just some of the ideas that we got up here. I can't go into details of what they are. These are not trash prizes by no means. These are people who are proud to have small local business in Santa Rosa County, and they appreciate your business.
Okay. So many of you might recognize my voice from WEBY radio, although you haven't heard it there for a year and a half. I sold the radio station 2 years ago to the folks that own Cat Country, and so I'm sort of semi-retired from radio, but I am back on the radio. I do a show now on Saturday mornings on 103.7 FM and 790 AM. It's the Mike Bates Show. It airs 7 o'clock, and by 9 AM every episode is put up on a podcast at themikebatesshow.com. So if you're interested in hearing any of those episodes, they are all online. So we are going to begin this evening with a prayer and the pledge, and to lead us in the prayer, please welcome Tommy Nichols.
Hey guys, if you would bow your heads with me, please. First off, Lord, I'd like to thank you today for bringing us all here safely. Lord, please be with all the speakers today. Please give them the courage to get their message across to the crowd and the citizens of this county. Then, Lord, I ask that on our way home today, you please be with us as we head back and finish the evening with our family. Thank you for everything. In the Lord's name, amen.
All right, if you can stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, you may be seated and we will get this underway. So the format this evening is that each candidate in attendance will have an opportunity to speak, and then there will be some time, possibly, I'll explain that in a moment, to ask questions. Because of the coronavirus situation, a lot of people did not want to attend in person, but this event is being streamed on the internet, and I'm certain there are thousands of people watching, and that's not an exaggeration. I tell you, I was the moderator at the county commission debate down at Hidden Creek. I guess by now it's been 2 weeks, and they limited attendance there to 25 people. And I happened to mention to my wife as I was leaving that, there's gonna be 25 people there, and it's on the internet, but no one's gonna watch. I got home, and I looked at the internet stream, there were 4,200 people that had watched that debate online. And about a week later, I was telling somebody about that, and I looked it up just to refresh the number. 5,400 people had watched that. So there may not be that many people in the auditorium right now, but I'm certain there are thousands watching online and will watch it online in the recording, so that's a good thing. We're really fortunate, as Americans to get to do this. Most countries on the planet, they don't have a say in who their leaders are. So this is really a very good process that we are involved in. We are blessed to live in a nation that allows this. And I thank you all for coming out tonight, and all those watching on the internet, thank you for caring enough to be informed before you cast your ballot. So the way this is going to work is I will call each candidate up. Each candidate will have a total of 15 minutes. And by that I mean if the candidate speaks for 10 minutes, there will be 5 minutes worth of questions. If the candidate speaks for 15 minutes, there will be 0 minutes worth of questions. If the candidate speaks for 1 minute, there will be 14 minutes worth of questions, and I'm not going to give you every imaginable scenario, but you get the drift there, okay? The order that the candidates will appear, and if you are a candidate and you're here, please pay very close attention to the list, because not everyone on the ballot was invited, but not everyone on the ballot RSVP'd to attend. So this list is only those who RSVP'd to attend. If I do not mention your name and you're on the ballot, please come see me and we will add you to the list, because we want to hear from you. So beginning, even though he's unopposed, Don Spencer was to be our first speaker. Is Don here? I did not see him. Is Don Spencer here?
I have not seen him.
Okay, so we may not hear from Don. You're not going to get a chance to vote for him anyway. His name's not on the ballot. He's running unopposed. But our first speaker will be Lonnie Hawkins, running for the Republican State Committeeman for Santa Rosa County, followed by Elizabeth Huey, candidate for School Board District 2. Then Clifton Buddy Highnote, candidate for School Board District 2. Then Karen Barber, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools. Then David Gunter, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools. Then Michael Thorpe, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools. Then Stacy Bryan, Republican candidate for County Commissioner District 1. Then Jeff Ross, Republican candidate for County Commissioner District 1. Then Ryan Adkins, Republican candidate for County Commissioner District 3. Then Jerry Cooey, Republican candidate for County Commissioner District 3. And then Gage Schlegel, Republican candidate for County Commission District 3. And then we'll have the raffle at the end. If you're a candidate and I didn't mention your name, please come see me. So let's begin with Lonnie Hawkins, candidate for Republican State Committeeman. Lonnie? Oh, I did leave one thing out. The questions. When they are done talking, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. That's what this microphone here is for. So the priority questions will be people standing at the microphone. So if there's a candidate you want to ask a question from at any point, come stand at that mic and we will take the questions in the order that you are standing there. If there aren't questions, people did submit them in writing, and I've got those here, and I'll ask them. They won't be my questions, but they'll come from the audience. But our priority is people at the microphone.
Hey,
so with
Mike,
that,
real quick, the big voice.
yes.
Any questions that do come to mind, just keep in mind, we do have children in here. No attacking questions, no personal questions, nothing that's going to make anybody look bad. If it's intentional or derogatory or very offensive, we will have that removed or edited out of the videos, and we would prefer that you just don't bring them up. If it's personal or you got a personal issue with somebody, keep that to yourself. Let it be known at the poll.
Okay, so Lonnie, you're first, and the candidates will be at this lectern here. So Lonnie, your 15 minutes has begun.
Thank you, Mike. Some of you may recognize my voice. If you've ever been to a Friends of the NRA banquet in the last, 15, 20 years, I've had the privilege of being the MC of that wonderful event. If you haven't been, see Mike Bates before you leave and let him tell you about next year's event. I'm hoping we're having one. COVID will let us get together. I'm running for the office that you've never heard of, State Committeeman for the Republican Party of Florida. What is that? The Republican Party of Florida is made up of every registered Republican across the state. Every county has a county executive committee, which is made up of 2 men, 2 women, and alternates made up exactly the same way from every precinct. In a wonderful world, all of those seats would be filled, and every month we'd get together and have hundreds of people in the room. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. Most people think about politics a week or 2 before the election, maybe the day they're walking in to vote. Others like me, we live it every day. So that committee is not as large as it could be. The state committee is made up of a man, a woman, and the county chairman from each county. They get together once a quarter to conduct the business of the state party. Unlike some of the staff at state party level seem to think, the party is not run from the top down, it's run from the bottom up. If we work it right and organize it right, the voters talk to their precinct committeemen who pass the information on to the state committeeman who once a quarter bring it to the county or to the state level to discuss what needs to be done. What needs to be done? They work with folks that want to run for office, state office, federal office, county office. We have committees that control the budget. The state party does the fundraising, millions of dollars, to run campaigns. A lot of that needs to be funneled back down into the counties for education. I look around and see what's going on in the major metropolitan areas of the country, and a lot of that's because of lack of education. Not at the school level, but the things that I learned growing up as a Boy Scout, the things I learned at church in RAs, just basic common sense, respect for your country, history of where our country came from. The founding fathers, and they're no different than anybody else. They were just common folks that got together with an idea. Thomas Jefferson penned the words, "All men are created equal." It took us a long time to get to the all men created equal part and understanding that all men meant all men, all women of every race, color, and creed. They talked about life. Right now there's a thing going on about what lives matter. Let me tell you, life is a gift of God, and all lives are precious. Every race, color, creed, born and unborn, precious gift of God, and we don't need to take it for granted. Let's talk about my qualifications and why I want to serve you as your state committee man. For the past 20 years, I've been rather involved in politics. I ran for county commission in the year 2000. Thank you very much for electing Buck Lee. You saved me from a lot of heartache and grief. 20 years ago, we were talking about building a courthouse. 20 years ago, that courthouse would have cost about $20 million. Still not built, and the price is about tripled. But because I didn't get elected, I didn't just go home and quit. I went to work for the state party. I was a staff level employee. My job was to work with the county parties, and my territory was every county in the Central Time Zone. I got to go to more meetings than most people know happened. Executive committee meetings, Republican women's meetings, Republican club meetings, young Republican meetings, college Republican meetings. My job was to organize, get Republicans elected. Spent a year and a half there. We did something that hadn't been done since Reconstruction. We got a Republican governor reelected for a second term with Jeb Bush. That was in 2002. Been a long time. From there, I went to work for Congressman Miller. I spent 5 years in Jeff's office, from being a field director, field rep, all the way up to district director. Jeff will tell you today I was his fixer. Jeff spent his time in D.C. I spent my time in the congressional district, and I got to go places that he needed to be but couldn't be. He would read things into the congressional record about folks that had passed. I would go to the funerals and present those. We'd fly flags over the Capitol. We would present those. I got to be speaking for him in his stead. He would get thank you letters for attending events that he didn't even know I went to. After 5 years there, I went into running campaigns. I got involved in politics deep up until the point that I saw how dirty politics could be. People quit talking about why they want to be the candidate and why they want to run for office and slung as much mud as they could to see where it would stick. We seem to have forgotten Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment. Thou shalt speak no ill of a fellow Republican. My job, if you put me back as state committee man, is I'm going to be reminding candidates. Talk about why you want to be in office. Talk about what you can do, not why the other guy shouldn't be there. The problem with tearing people apart in the primaries is when we get to the general election, we're so bloodied and beaten up that the other side has a pretty easy chance of taking us out. Because there were 5 people running in this primary and 4 of them weren't happy, we're going to vote for the other side and teach you a lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, the next few months we've got a war on our hands. We have got to do everything in our power to get Donald Trump reelected. And I'm talking to Republicans. I know there may be some Democrats in the room, but I'm talking inside baseball now. We have got to get Trump reelected. 2 years from now, Ron DeSantis is going to have his hands full. You may not know it, but our Commissioner of Ag, Nikki Fried, is already positioning herself to run for governor. All that means is we can put a Republican in the Commissioner of Ag seat in 2 years. That's my history. Things that I've done besides politics: I'm on the board of directors of Crime Stoppers. I'm on the board of the Governmental Prayer Committee, Breakfast Committee. I work for a law firm. Well, actually, I work for 3 law firms as firm administrators, keeping their books. I do real estate closings on a day-to-day basis, and I manage books for 3 law firms, 1 RV park, and a couple other business concerns. And I'm not going to take 15 minutes. I'll take questions on anything. Not just about this. You've got questions about anything going on politically. I'll even talk trash with you. A lot of people don't like the Waste Pro contract. Do you realize that when they did away with recycling, we saved $1.7 million? Recycling had been subsidized by the county at the tune of $350,000 a year. And do you know what recycling is in the Panhandle? They take it either to a landfill that converts it into methane, or they take it to an incinerator in Pensacola and burn it because it turns it into heat, which is energy that's not used for anything. And over the last 5 years, they spent almost $2 million. So yeah, You want recycling, you got to pay for it, but they saved us $2 million. Any questions on State Committee, man? If not, Mr. Moderator, I yield the balance of my time.
Does anybody have a question for Lonnie? If you'll step up to that microphone. Jeff, if you can, there you go. What's your question for Lonnie Hawkins?
Why don't you fix Pond Creek? This is my question.
Why don't I fix Pond Creek? It's not something that's in my power. If it was something I could do, I'd try. Tell me what's wrong with Pond Creek. I know it's not as wet as it used to be.
It's been so polluted by this sewage. It's been so polluted by the sewage.
I wish that we could do away with septic tanks and everybody would be on sanitary sewer. Wish we had the money to force it on, but we don't. I agree, protecting the environment's important. That's not something that my office that I'm running for would have anything to do with, but keep that question in mind for some of these county commissioner candidates.
Are there any other questions for Lonnie? All right, well then I have one for you, Lonnie. The committeeman from Santa Rosa County, constitutionally, the Electoral College meets in the state capitol after the election and casts a ballot for the president. Assuming the Republican candidate wins, it would be the Republican committeemen that do that. We would have one from the 1st Congressional District. Is that Electoral College delegate from the 1st Congressional District always selected from among the state committeemen within CD1?
I don't think so. The 3 members of each county caucus, and they elect a chairman of the caucus, but I don't think by default that goes to that person. And I'm not sure if it's a congressional appointee or how you get to that position. So the answer is, I don't know.
Okay.
See if you'll ever find a politician that'll say that.
First question, and we've already stumped him. That wasn't deliberate. I was genuinely curious. So, all right, well, that was 13 minutes and 48 seconds, so I think we'll forgive the minute 12, and you are welcome to just give a quick thank you and have a seat, and then we'll call it the next candidate.
Thank you so much. I'm Lonnie Hawkins, candidate for state committeeman. I would appreciate your vote. This office does not pay anything, and if I do it right, it'll probably cost me about $5 grand this year.
All right. Lonnie Hawkins, candidate for Republican State Committeeman. Thank you. Our next candidate is Elizabeth Huey, candidate for School Board District 2. Please welcome Elizabeth Huey.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. I'm Elizabeth Huey. We knocked on over 4,000 doors listening to Santa Rosa County residents, and I was the first candidate for school board to meet the petition requirement with 1,326 qualified. Example, why is that important? In District 2, which is my district, when Whisper Creek residents raised flooding land issues, I listened because I had walked through their neighborhood getting petitions signed, and I knew the residents. I attended meetings over the next 6 months, and in the end, the engineers agreed with the community and saved the school district $7.2 million of hauling out drippy, wet dirt. Further, I am honored to be endorsed by the Santa Rosa Professional Educators, SRPE. Teachers are the gold standard. I have been a high school teacher, a division director in 2 community colleges, Greenville Technical College in South Carolina and our own PJC, and a vice president of research and market development. At Greenville Tech, a community college, we launched an initiative called Quick Jobs with a Future that has trained over 30,000 students for workforce development and received national awards. As VP of Research and Market Development, I worked with business leaders, strategically planning and achieving market growth. With my advanced computer skills, I have participated in corporate technology rollouts and can ask knowledgeable questions about ERP systems. In 2016, I graduated with a master's degree in accounting and a Bachelor of Science degree in business administration from UWF. My Bachelor of Arts degree in secondary education is from Western Michigan University. I want to improve students' lives by providing multiple pathways through workforce development and higher education. My skills on both sides of the desk will help the school board lead. In 2014, Santa Rosa District ranked 3rd in the state in overall academic performance. We have dropped to 10th. My priority is that we regain our top 5 ranking in the state. In 2016, the superintendent, supported by the school board, overruled a magistrate on teacher pay raises. This action led to an impasse settled with a small raise. However, the teachers were denied retroactive pay. At the same time, the school board approved $4.8 million in renovation costs to the superintendent's building. Many district classrooms are in need of repair with aging technology. It is a matter of priorities. My priorities are students, teachers, and budget transparency. I volunteer at Chumuckla Elementary, working with the kindergartens on phonics. It's a lot of fun. I've attended school board meetings for the past 3 years. I have attended all salary negotiation meetings for the past 2 years. As good fiscal stewards, we need financial tracking and quarterly reports in key areas so that current funds can be better utilized. Example is school supplies. In the past, we've tapped up to 1/3 of our budget for other expenses. This is monies that should go to the teachers for supplies for their classrooms. Returning supply monies to teachers would boost morale and improve our classrooms. With my UWF Master in Accountancy, coupled with my experience in 2 state systems, Florida and South Carolina, I can navigate budget reports and ask probing questions. For the 2021 school year budget, the superintendent is proposing a property tax increase to 1.5 mils. Yet, we promised the taxpayers that we wouldn't raise the millage if we got the half-cent tax, sales tax. Why would we jeopardize $9.4 million in half-cent sales taxes for $1.1 million in property taxes? And why do we need it? Let's look at the numbers. In 2019-2020, our budget was $377 million. Yet we ended the year with a budget of $420 million due to a $35.6 million increase in capital outlay. My strategic question is, where did the monies come from and what are the impacts? With my comprehensive budget transparency plan of financial tracking, quarterly reports, and monthly fiscal workshops, taxpayers in Santa Rosa County would know the big picture and the bottom line of how the school district spends taxpayer monies. How can we reward Santa Rosa County teachers with the pay raises they deserve? I have studied where the district is spending state resources for teacher salary increases. Many of these expenses are in other parts of the budget. An example is the state of Florida district fine for lack of instructional hours of $650,000. That was taken from the teacher's salary increase, and I object to that. In the governor's plan, 80% of the monies are allocated for beginning teachers and 20% for veterans. Note that school achievement awards and best and brightest monies have been eliminated. As one 28-year veteran told me, I will make less money next year than this year. Under the plan, a first-year teacher could make the salary of an experienced 9-year teacher. Now think about that in your own job positions. Is that somebody walking in the door would make more money than you would make with 9 years experience. In the 2020-21 budget salary increases are critical. Further, I support monthly school board workshops open to the public, focused on fiscal topics to develop new strategic ideas, state lobbying strategies, and collaborative community partnerships. This is in addition to the school board meetings, not part of the school board meetings. Tracking expenses and providing quarterly trend analysis will help us use current funds more effectively. As a fiduciary agent, there are key areas that we need to monitor. One, impact fees. A judge granted a motion for a temporary injunction on the grounds that the school district's impact fee study was sloppy, quote, sloppy and ill-advised, end quote, claiming that it used, quote, inconsistent data from several different years and had multiple mathematical errors, end quote. I have proposed quarterly meetings between the school board and the Board of County Commissioners to plan growth together using our combined resources. We can bring all the stakeholders to the table, and the first thing we can agree on is the data, so all of us don't have to go through this. Question: how can we address mounting debt strategically? According to the 2019-2020 work plans, the school district is planning 3 new schools at a total cost of $186 million, unfunded. You know what unfunded means, don't you? It means we pay for it. The district is unique in that we have a nonprofit leasing corporation. According to the Auditor General report, there is a, quote, substantive economic relationship between the district and the leasing corporation, and separate financial statements for the leasing corporation are not published. With the latest 2019 lease series of $30.3 million, we currently owe this entity, the leasing corporation, over $51 million in principal. Is my turn up?
15 seconds.
Okay. Is that I'm Elizabeth Huey. Please look at me for School Board District 2, vote for teachers. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I brought
I don't need to apologize. That was exactly. So let's now welcome our next candidate, which is Clifton Buddy Highnote, also seeking School Board District 2.
Good to, excuse me, a little taller than this Huey. First of all, Michael, you and your group, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share, and for you folks that are out there in virtual land, certainly .com, and certainly I'll respond to any of those kind of questions that you may have. The Great Rally Debate team, thank you. I'm not going to name you individually, but you did a great job of putting this together. I am Clifton Buddy Highnote. I'm running for re-election to School Board District 2. I am a lifelong resident of Santa Rosa County. My wife, beautiful wife in the back there, we've been married 43 years. We're both graduates of Milton High School, and we both have 2 children. We have 2 children together that that are graduates of Santa Rosa County Schools as well. I have a BS degree in biology and chemistry from Emory University in Atlanta, and I have a master's in science from UWF in educational leadership. I served this district for a number of years. In fact, some of you sitting in the audience, I had the pleasure of having you either in a classroom or in an athletic field as well. I have been a teacher. I taught chemistry and physics and math for 20 years in Santa Rosa County, coached at that time, and also I've been an assistant principal. I've been a principal of the only pre-K-12 school in our district. And the last 5 years of my career, I served as director of high schools, where I was responsible for the 7 high schools that are in our district. I'm a deacon and a Sunday school teacher at the Baptist Church in Pensacola. And I've been, as I said, a lifelong resident of this community. I have an understanding of budget in an attempt to meet the needs of over 3,000 employees. I have a strong desire to serve all the citizens in Santa Rosa County, and I believe I'm an individual that's trustworthy and of strong moral character. I also recognize that I'm not infallible. Some of the decisions I have had to make since I've served on the board have been extremely difficult. Some of them have cost me long-term friendships. However, the citizens of Santa Rosa County elected me to make the right decisions regardless of the consequences. We cannot function in this educational arena properly if we allow the will of special interest groups to dictate how we operate. I do not come to a decision without considering the facts and seeking divine guidance through prayer in all of those decisions. Some of you have asked, what are my priorities? Well, obviously, it's to be, if anybody that knows me knows that I'm a physical conservative in my own finances, but also I am a physically conservative and responsible in the district's budget as well. With the pandemic's effects on our state's economy, we can expect some very lean years and months and years in the future. And we must continue to be wise and closely scrutinize every expenditure. I also believe that accountability is paramount. Some of you ask about growth. Well, I also feel like that's something that the challenges are great in dealing with growth in our county. If you look around, everywhere from the south end all the way up into Shamuckla and the J area, there are subdivisions going in. Why? Why are these folks coming to Santa Rosa County? There are several reasons, but if you'll ask them, the main reason is because of the quality school system we have here in Santa Rosa County. And it's imperative that we continue that. But we have to address the growth by building schools in high growth areas. We do not receive any funding to build schools in Santa Rosa County. No district really does in the state of Florida. We used to have something called Public Education Capital Outlay Dollars, PICO dollars. We used to receive $3.4 to $4 million per year in order to help us in capital outlay, particularly in the area of maintenance, but that no longer exists. The state has taken that money and it's going to charter schools now. So if we build schools, that money has to be raised locally, either through your capital outlay portion of your property tax. And by the way, Ms. Huey mentioned that, and I voted against that increase. And if you want to check it out, go to the our last budget, or excuse me, our last board meeting and review the video. The reason I voted against it, not because we don't need the dollars. We definitely need the dollars in order to build these schools, but a promise was made, and I believe that I ought to be a man of my word, and we're going to keep that promise as long as we possibly can. We also, our half-cent sales tax dollars, which you have been so gracious to grant us over the last few years, generates about $9 million. But with the loss of our PICO dollars, we no longer have funding to maintain our schools. And when you're looking at a chiller costing $2 million at a school, or it's so expensive to maintain our aging schools that it uses up most of that half-cent sales tax dollars. So to build schools, we do have to borrow the money in a lot of cases through certificates of participation. And contrary to what you might have heard recently and what you might read on Facebook, you cannot use capital outlay dollars to fund teacher salary. It's not. It's restricted. You cannot do it. Impact fees, we lost the ability to participate in concurrency. We're no longer at the table, obviously, as a school district. And so we have to rely on the Board of County Commissioners to help us in that regard in terms of granting the development of new properties and new subdivisions and things of that nature. Impact fees are a way that we can provide additional funding to build these schools, and it's those folks that are having the impact that are moving into our area from all over the country. If you look, California, New York, all over are coming to our district, again, because of the great school district that we have, but they're having the impact of overcrowding our schools, and therefore they should help additionally in helping fund the construction of those new schools. Teacher salaries. The year 2020 is considered the year of the teacher, yet our veteran teachers have been somewhat neglected. That's not our choice, that was the governor's choice. I agree that we cannot pay a teacher enough for what they do day in and day out, and I understand we need to do better. Last year, our operating budget of $26 million, 74% of that went to salaries and benefits. We paid $17.5 million for teachers' benefits last year. And the last 3 years, our teachers' raises, although it's not enough, it's 2.2, 4.3, and 3.5%. Okay? That adds up to about 10% increase in salary over the course of the last 3 years. Many say that teacher morale is low, and I believe the main reason it's low because there's so many mandates that come from the direct Department of Education and from other sources of the state that require so much of a teacher's time that they're just simply worn out and they don't have time to teach anymore. It makes it very difficult for them. COVID-19 has brought in a tremendous amount of challenge. I encourage you that if you have not taken the opportunity to read the planning team's recommendation for reopening schools, it's posted on the district website. It's pretty extensive in what's going to occur and how we're going to try to take care of kids. You know, we had citizens to request an additional option, a remote option, and we went to work. Some of these folks sitting here, not me, but we went to work in putting that together to have that as an option. However, the vast majority of our students, I would say probably, I don't know exact current data, about 80% are going to return to brick and mortar. So therefore, it's imperative that we as stakeholders, parents, teachers, all of us together collectively, we do our best to create the safest environment that we possibly can for our students and teachers. Recently, we've lost some great educators and friends of mine due to the virus, and we have several in our educational community at this time that are currently battling this disease. please do your part and be careful. As I close, I believe my past service of 42 years matched with my passion for the community are the determining factors making me the most qualified for this position of a board member. My experience does count. As an educator, I understand the value of a quality education. As a parent, a grandparent, and a community leader, I understand the need for accountability, but it's my passion for children's success and their safety that drives me hard to give back to a school district that I absolutely love and has been so good to me. I ask you to vote for experience, for accountability, and passion. Please vote to re-elect Clifton Buddy Hino, School Board District 2. Thank you.
We do have 3 minutes of time if somebody has a question to ask. You can approach the microphone. If not, a few people...
I can't help you with Pond Creek, buddy. I'm sorry.
If not, a few people did submit questions in writing, so
Sure.
with nobody at the microphone, I'll ask.
All right?
This was from somebody in attendance here tonight. Teachers are very important.
Absolutely.
But how do you feel about pay for educational support employees?
Well, first of all, teachers can't do what they're asked to do without educational support folks. Parapros, all of those in our schools that work hand in hand with teachers to help students, particularly in the ESE arena and all over our schools. Our parapros and our ed support folks are crucial to us being successful as a school district. So as far as paying them, yes, I would hope that we would be able to do some things to improve the quality of their pay as well.
All right, we do have time for another question, also submitted in writing here tonight. Okaloosa County has a 7-period day. Their secondary teachers teach 5 classes. Do you believe these extra instructional minutes are the reasons their district has a higher ranking? If so, if you are elected, will you work toward increasing our district's ranking? Will you consider a 7-class period schedule or longer class periods within the current 6-period schedule?
Well, first of all, I've never been a strong proponent of the 6-period day. 7-period day is what I would desire, with teachers teaching 5 and 7 and maybe having a duty period or something else in regard to that. But a year or two ago, we the superintendent put a committee together to analyze this and to look at it and look at the effect it would have on us from the budget perspective. That committee came back and reported that it was not feasible for us to make that change because of the tremendous increased cost with hiring additional teachers, moving from a 3-tier bus system to our increasing routes. All of those factors figured into us making a decision. I ran as a part of my platform 4 years ago to go back to the 7-period day. When I was principal, we had a hybrid schedule. I know Mr. Thorpe's here. He had a hybrid schedule at Milton High School. I ran in order to see those changes met. But we've not been successful in doing so because of the cost involved.
Okay, thank you. Clifton Buddy Highnote, candidate for School Board District 2.
Thank you.
Our next candidate this evening is Karen Barber, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Barber, and I want to be your next Superintendent of Schools for Santa Rosa County School District. I'd like to thank the Santa Rosa Great Debate team for this event. It is an honor to be here, and I'm truly excited because in 10 short days, we will begin a new era of education in Santa Rosa County. I'm hearing some feedback. A new era of education in Santa Rosa County. A new era of optimism, respect, collaboration, and an uncompromising focus on doing what is right for children. U.S. Representative Brian Mass said, "Challenge shows us what we are capable of." And I would submit that right now, in our current crisis, with the challenges that we have, we are capable of doing our very best work. We are more deliberate and thoughtful, and we are putting our efforts into what is essential and what truly matters. Experience is essential for a superintendent, and my experience spans 3 decades. My husband Mike and I came to Santa Rosa County courtesy of the Air Force 23 years ago, and this community welcomed us with open arms. While Mike was active duty at Eglin, I initially taught at Navarre High School. And then Mr. Benny Russell hired me as an assistant principal at Holly Navarre Middle School. When Mr. Russell became ill, I was asked to serve at both Holly Navarre Middle School and Gulf Breeze Middle School at the same time. And it was challenging, to be sure, but it was a wonderful experience that led to my dissertation topic for my doctorate. I conducted a study with 4 middle schools looking at the factors that created the largest reading gains in students using a combination of computer-assisted instruction and teacher face-to-face instruction. And although that study occurred 20 years ago, boy, is that lesson and those results relevant now. Because now we're looking at a combination of computer, online digital instruction, and face-to-face instruction. So after completing my doctorate, I served as an administrator for our Head Start program and at East Milton Elementary. And then for 5 years, I was principal at Chumuckla Elementary. When I arrived, our student achievement at Chumuckla was near the bottom. But in 2 short years, we were one of the top performing schools in our county. And this transformation was so extraordinary that professors from Harvard University came to learn from our teachers and our students to see what we were doing there that made such a dramatic difference in the lives of our students in our community. You know, one of my favorite quotes is from Aristotle. He said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit." At Chumuckla, we created a culture of excellence, and the teachers and the students and the community believed we were capable of excellence. So for the last 11 years, I've served as director of federal programs. And during that time, I've written grants that have resulted in about $80 million in funding, providing our students and our teachers with resources and support. And I love that part of my job. I love evaluating the needs of our schools and creating solutions and opportunities for our children and our teachers. We have a problem with homelessness in Santa Rosa County. Every year, we have over 1,000 children experiencing homelessness. So working with the Florida Housing Corporation, the Milton Housing Authority, the Homeless Coalition in our school district, we created the One Family, 1 Year, 1 Home program. And this provides 20 to 25 families with 12 months of rental assistance. And then also we work with case management and tutoring for our students. Not only have our students achieved a 95% promotion rate and a 100% graduation rate, after 1 year, those families, 87% of them are housing stable. They don't have to worry about where they're going to sleep at night anymore, and children can concentrate on being students and learning. And 2 of our families have actually become homeowners. Santa Rosa County was the first county in the state of Florida to get this grant, and we were tasked with creating a model that could be duplicated, and guess what? Now 4 other counties in the state of Florida have a One Family, 1 Year, 1 Home program. And children throughout this state have been affected by the good work we've done in Santa Rosa County. 3 years ago, I had developed a program for our justice-involved youth, providing at-risk youth with case management, tutoring, and mentors. Children need to be able to see good men and good women and know what that looks like. And our goal was to reassure those students that no matter what they did to get in trouble, it did not need to define the rest of their life. So we help them stay in school, graduate from high school, and then successfully transition to college and career. And this team approach also includes the Department of Juvenile Justice and our court system, our schools, and the families of our students. It's an example of how working together with our community for the betterment of our students, no matter what the situation of our children are, we can find children and help them to achieve and have promising futures. So additionally, the federal grants I've written successfully have also made STEAM possible in Santa Rosa County. Science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. We're beginning our 6th year of implementation with STEAM Innovate, and it is now hardwired in every school in our county, pre-K through high school. Teaching and learning is focused on cultivating students that think critically, work collaboratively, communicate effectively, and develop creative, real-world solutions. We were one of the first districts in the nation to have a district-wide transformation with STEM. And we've received national and international recognition. We have school districts from around the nation and around the state of Florida who come here to learn how we have transformed teaching and learning and engaged our students. And I'll tell you now, with our current situation, we need critical thinkers. We need problem solvers. Our teachers are there, our students are there, and our families are there with us because STEAM has created family engagement like we have never seen before. So now to the future. In a little over 2 weeks, our children will return to school with either face-to-face or virtual instruction. And I promise you, as we speak, our administrators, our teachers, our school bus drivers, our cafeteria staff, our front office staff, our support staff are working on doing their very best to ensure that we have high quality instruction delivered in a safe manner for everybody. Do we have all the answers? We do not. These are scary times. They define us, how we work together and solve these problems. So we'll be working with our health department, with our Board of County Commissioners, and the families of Santa Rosa. And we must strategically utilize coronavirus aid funding to provide students and teachers with the training, the technology, the connectivity with internet, high quality digital curriculum, enhanced sanitation, personal protective equipment so that students and teachers and our staff feel that they are in a safe environment in which teaching and learning can occur. We must provide this robust support to our families as well, who are so critical right now to the teaching and learning of their students. And I'll tell you what, it is an opportunity we have here to really engage with our families and help them to be the most effective learning coaches and teachers at home possible. We have an opportunity, and I'm optimistic that we're going to meet that challenge. So beyond opening schools, we must have a long-term approach as well. There will be a day when we get past COVID, I hope. We cannot lose sight of that future. We can't let this pandemic rob our children of good education and a promising future. So we have to be fiscally and educationally responsible. We have to focus on recruiting and retaining talented teachers while responsibly addressing the need for growth management and school construction with input from our community on the front end. So these priorities really beg to ask the question, is this the best we can do? In every situation with children, they deserve our very, very best. So we have to ask that question. To make Santa Rosa School District the district of choice for teachers and families, we must be committed to providing competitive salaries and excellent benefits. A complete examination of every contract and expenditure and a 10 to 20-year strategic plan with citizens, leaders, and experts at the table has to occur. We all have good ideas. We've got to bring them together and be open-minded and have conversations and focus on doing what is right for children, because our children matter. And the advocacy and the relationships we build at the local and the state level can be used to improve our revenue, and improve the services that we offer students. Parents and families, so important. They're why we're here. We serve our children and their families. So robust communication with parents will be a non-negotiable for me on day one. I've been doing a lot, everybody's doing social media now with campaigns and, oh goodness, and I'm a neophyte at Facebook, but I have gotten out there and tried the Facebook Live sessions a little bit, and the feedback from families and from parents and teachers has really been surprising and positive. People are craving information and accurate, real-time information. So I want to have an increase in social media, regional town hall meetings, and a district parent advisory committee with parents and citizens represented from all 34 of our schools. Our families, our public, taxpayers need to have a voice and access to real-time financial and educational information. So my goal is also to create a family opportunity center at every school. And these opportunity centers will be a physical and digital portal for individuals to volunteer for schools, for parents to learn about ways to support their child's education, for education and employment opportunities for our parents. Each school and every community will help to create that family opportunity center to meet the unique needs of the area. So Gulf Breeze will have an opportunity center that may look very different than what we need in the Jay community, or the East Milton community, or the Pace community, or the Navarre community. But again, that communication and listening and striving to do what we can to do our very best for our families and our children is a must. And then, of course, expansion of our career and technical education program is also a must. Workforce development, economic development. My children live all over the country. My daughter is a head women's college basketball coach in Texas. We do have a son and a daughter-in-law and a grandbaby who live on Navarre Beach, so we're very happy about that. We have another daughter who lives in Birmingham. She is a CPA. And then my son Kyle is a major in the Air Force. He just got back from serving a year in Qatar. And thankfully, for right now, he is going to be at Hurlburt Field, hopefully for a few years at least. But my family has been all over the map. And that's wonderful that they can go anywhere and work. I want our kids to have the option of working here in Santa Rosa County, working in the Panhandle. And so business and industry and technical education will draw additional revenue, will draw additional opportunities for high-paying, valuable, relevant jobs in our community. There are lots of grants out there as well that we are missing right now. There are Department of Defense grants, there are Triumph dollars, all focused on STEM education and workforce education. And we have a responsibility, as we're looking at our tight budget, to be aggressive in going after those dollars. I have the knowledge about how to write grants. We need to go after those dollars. We're leaving them on the table for other school districts. You know, our school district educates about 30,000 students. We are the largest employer in the county with over 3,100 employees who come to work every day to serve our children. Our children, our employees, and our community deserve an experienced, innovative, proven leader who will think outside the box, strive for excellence, and welcome others to the table. I'll leave you with Philippians 2, verse 2 through 4. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interest, but each of us to the interests of others. So I humbly offer my continued service to the children, the families, and the citizens of Santa Rosa County. Join me in putting our children first, coming to the table respectively and openly. Join me in taking this challenging and daunting time in history, and let's show our children in the midst of this challenge that we are in the habit of excellence in Santa Rosa County. On August 18th, the next superintendent of schools will be chosen. Please vote for Karen Barber for superintendent of schools, and let's begin this new, optimistic, respectful era of excellence in education. Thank you.
Okay, Karen Barber, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next candidate to come up and speak is David. That did eat up the 15 minutes, so unfortunately no questions for you. After the event, though, if you have questions, hopefully the candidates will still be around and you can meet them one-on-one. David Gunter, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you, Mike, and I appreciate the great debate team and Mike Bell for putting this opportunity together. It's been challenging to get information out to the voters, and so this is a great opportunity, great platform. Glad we were able to live stream this. I want to start out by just talking to you about a couple different things, and one of the questions people ask you all the time is, why are you running? Why do you want to serve? Why do you want this office? And there's a lot of campaigns that have stopped exactly with that question because they couldn't answer it. And for me, it's very simple. I don't desire to be a politician. I don't want to make promises that I'm not going to keep, but I want to serve my community. I simply want to serve my community and leave it better than I found it. So for me, that's my why. When you look at the position that the superintendent will hold, the superintendent will be over the largest employer in Santa Rosa County. Right now, when you look at that, there's some responsibility, and we have to be, as an organization, a responsible citizen in the community, a responsible organization in the community. Many of you have seen some of the interactions between the school district and some of our other governmental agencies as of late, and for me, those relationships have got to be better. We've got to make sure that we're a good steward of taxpayer dollars, and at the same time, we've got to make sure that we're working not in isolation, but in conjunction with those other organizations. When we're getting ready to put a new school on the ground, the county commissioners, citizens in that community, they need to know where that school's going. They need to know how it's going to affect the location where it's at. They need to know how that's going to impact their community. So for me, that's part of the issue is I want to see Santa Rosa County School District work cooperatively with the community, with the parents. From the beginning of my campaign, I have advocated for and I have told the citizens that accountability will be key. And we will do that through citizens advisory boards. From day one, I promised the implementation of citizens advisory boards, and that's what I intend to recommend as soon as I'm in superintendent. But for me, really, it's an issue where I can stand up here and talk about David Gunter, but I really, if I'm going to be accountable to the citizens, I want to answer questions for the citizens. So the other thing I'm going to tell you about before I start taking questions is really what do I offer that the other candidates don't offer? And for me, it's just a little bit different perspective. I've got 20 years in education. I've spent that time in education. I've been everywhere from a classroom teacher. I taught math, I taught science, I taught remedial reading and remedial math. I taught the program where we did some intensive instructions where I had 2 or 3 different classes that fed to my computer lab. I did the computer side of it, and the teachers did the direct instruction side, so I had some experience with those struggling students. I also taught math and science and taught computer classes as well. So I've got a diverse background from that perspective. And then I went into administration. So from there I served as dean of students where I handled a lot of the student disciplinary issues. Then I went to assistant principal and then principal at King Middle School. Saw a little bit of different perspective at King Middle School because that was the highest poverty rate in Santa Rosa County for a middle school. There's 1 or 2 schools that had a little bit more poverty rate than what King Middle School did, but it definitely lets you know what the needs of those communities and the parents are when you're dealing with that situation. And then from that standpoint, I went to the district office. I went to the district office and I served as director of middle schools. And as director of middle schools, I was over a lot of the curriculum and initiatives that came in and through textbook adoptions. And that's one of the things a lot of times I hear citizens ask questions about, how do we know or how do we have input about what's going to happen with our curriculum? Well, part of the process that's very underutilized is the input that we're required to have from the state of Florida where citizens are allowed to review that curriculum going in. But I can tell you, during my time as director of middle schools, there was many times when we would put curriculum out that would potentially be up for adoption, and over a 30-day cycle for review, you might have 2 or 3 citizens that would come in and review it. So for me, it's just that situation again, where if we're going to put citizens advisory boards in place, then we've got to make sure it's accessible and we know. We can't wait for those citizens to come to us. We've got to go to the citizens and seek that advice. And then lastly, the thing I want to talk to you about is kind of my vision going forward and what potentially I see happening. And for me, there's a stark reality here. When you look at what students are now doing and a traditional college track for most students, right now in Santa Rosa County and then Panhandle really, about 35 or 40% of our students are going off to a college program. But then the realistic fact that really should catch your attention is after 1 year, only about 20% of them are still there. And so what's that other 80% doing? They have marginal job skills that are not employable, and that's part of the reason we struggle here locally to attract a lot of the economic development that we see and a lot of the issues where we just don't have that job pool in place. So for me, my vision is I want to see students walk across the stage in Santa Rosa County with a diploma in one hand and an industry certification in the other. And there's several ways you can get that done. Part of the way you begin doing that is you turn the model upside down as to how we've been building schools. Right now, we've got a kindergarten through 8th grade school that's going in the south end. In about 15 to 18 months of that school opening, it's going to be at capacity. And so then where do those schools go to? Or where do those students go to school at? They'll go to middle schools that are over capacity, and then they'll go to high schools that are even more over capacity. So for me, I think we start turning that upside down and we start building building high schools. And we repurpose some of those middle schools if we need to as we look at feeder patterns. So for me, you immediately look at how we can get 2 high schools on the ground that will be industry-based, workforce development-based, and we also, in the process of being that good citizen in the community, we incorporate the county. We reach out to the Board of County Commissioners. We look at the economic development group that they've got, and we pair them up with our workforce development in the school district. And we let them be partners in identifying these high-demand jobs and these skills that we need. Partner up with them and putting these programs in place where we will see the job pools created. The students will walk off the stage with the skills they need to be immediately employable. And they'll have that opportunity to either go to college on that traditional college track, or they'll have the opportunity to go to work and attract these businesses. When we create this job pool, we will start seeing 200, 300, 400 job firms come in. Industry and business will find Santa Rosa County when we create these employable job skills in our students. But really, like I said, my goal is to make sure that we answer questions for citizens. And so, Mike, I hope you got some questions because I'm going to answer them.
We do have about 9 minutes of questions, and the priority is this microphone right here. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, just step up to that microphone, and you will get the priority. Second priority are those people that submitted a question in writing, and I do have a few here, so we'll start with one here. You've mentioned building a new vocational school on the south end of the county for building and increasing graduates with workforce-ready skills. How do you propose paying for this school, and do you support this being a priority over building new K-12 schools to deal with growth?
Well, I think I just answered the first one part of that question. And when I look at turning the model upside down and making it a priority to get high schools in place so we can get those on the ground and get the workforce development issues in place. But for me, when you look at building high schools and where we're at capacity-wise with high schools, the larger high schools get, the more you limit engagement opportunities for students. There's only so many places on the basketball team. There's only so many places on the baseball team. You end up looking at reasons that students aren't engaged, and we need those extracurriculars for them to be engaged. But when you ask about how do you pay for it, well, right now the most accessible and the most dependable stream of income that we have is our local option sales tax dollars. So for me, I think what you do is you prioritize how those local option sales tax dollars are spent, and you bring in, if you can budget for 25 or 30% of those to be set aside every year to dedicate toward building a school. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something we're going to have to plan for. So right now we get about $9.5 million out of that local option sales tax money. So if we took 30% of them, that would give us about $3 million a year. In 5 years, you got $15 million. If a high school costs you $45 million or so to spend, to build, you've got the payment up front to pay for basically a third of that, and it's a lot better bond issue, and you get a lot better return. And the comps issue where they go out for bonds, you'll get a better rating and a better opportunity to move that forward. And then your debt service will also be paid down.
Okay, another question that was submitted here this evening. If you were superintendent, how would you plan to address the pay increase disparity that veteran teachers are about to experience with the governor's new pay legislation? And after year one, how do you plan to sustain those pay increases?
Well, one of the things you look at from that standpoint is the fact that you're dealing with an unfunded mandate from the state of Florida. So I think really it's an issue where you start having to advocate back in Tallahassee to where if they're going to put a plan in place or they're going to want that to go in place locally, they need to make sure that it's adequately funded from the state level. So for me, again, it's about looking at the budget. You have to keep in mind, a lot of times we get the question about, why are you building schools or why are you building facilities and you're not paying teachers? Understand those are categorical funds. You can't use capital outlay dollars to pay teacher salaries. But we do have operational dollars where we can look at everywhere. And for me, I look everywhere where you can feasibly cut money and make those cuts and prioritize what you spend on teacher salaries and make sure and it's not just teacher salaries, it's employee salaries. You hear a lot about teachers are the gold standards, and teachers are the gold standard, but our employees and our staff entirely are the gold standard. So for me, you prioritize that budget and you make sure you cut everywhere you can before you cut salaries. And then also we need to make sure we're looking at benefits at the same time. We need to make sure we're providing the best benefits package that we can. But you're going to have to make sure you're looking at the budget, and then looking at that budget, you cut everywhere you can before you cut teacher salaries.
All right, so by pure chance, this is a bit of a follow-up question, although they didn't know it was going to be a follow-up question when they wrote it down. How do you plan to cut the fat? And are there created or useless jobs that the school system doesn't need?
I wouldn't tell you from the standpoint if you look at them from creative or useless jobs. Let me address it from this standpoint, because the question was asked earlier about 7-period day. And can Santa Rosa County go back to a 7-period day, or what happens with that potential? And if it's not a 7-period day, it's adding back that instructional time that's lost because you're on a 6-period day. Well, when you look at it, staffing is the largest cost of any employer, and it's definitely the largest cost for Santa Rosa County School District. So for me, we start looking at those staffing costs, and we look at how we staff schools. Right now, some of our staffing plans in Okaloosa County, if you look at Okaloosa, they've got more students than us, but they have less instructional staff than we do. And so you start asking, well, why is that? Why does Okaloosa have more students but less instructional staff? And a lot of it has to do with our staffing plan and the way we staff some special services and programs. So I think really what you look at is you're going to have to revise the staffing plan. You're going to have to get it up to date and make sure that you, again, prioritize. If the citizens want a 7-period day or they want that instructional time back, we need to listen. And then if we need to look and review that staffing plan, we need to go and look at where places actually have it that work. If they've got a model that works and they're paying for it effectively, we need to go learn from the people that are getting it right, and we need to.
Do you have a plan to address teacher recruitment and teacher retention?
Absolutely. And I think really, again, that's an issue of making sure you're budgeting appropriately. You're prioritizing for you're prioritizing for teacher salaries over everything else. But for me too, it's about advocating in Tallahassee. When Tallahassee mandates that you got to go to school for 5 days, when Tallahassee mandates that you got to pay teachers at a certain rate, one of the things that come out of the issue for the teacher pay issue is the fact that we were allocated about $5 million, a little less than $5 million total to pay teachers with. And what they didn't tell you in the new teacher pay raise was that also included the FICA contribution and the retirement contribution that has to be paid by the employer. So you're looking at probably somewhere around 15 to 17% that'll come straight off the top of that budget before you start increasing the salaries of teachers. So you hear the governor and you hear Tallahassee saying that the teachers are going to make $47.5 in the new salary, but they didn't provide enough funding for that to happen. So I think that's where you got to go back to Tallahassee. You got to budget wise here locally. And again, you cut everywhere else before you cut teacher salaries. And then you look at where you have to put things in place. You prioritize increasing teacher salaries, making sure that budget's cut everywhere else, and then you advocate in Tallahassee to get the proper funding for the mandates that they push through.
Do you think there are any changes that need to be made to the safety and security of our school system, specifically but not limited to school resource officers?
I would like to see the ability to, and again, we're going to be challenged with a tight budget. Again, this goes to another unfunded mandate from Tallahassee, or actually this is an underfunded mandate. Following the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas issue and that unfortunate event in South Florida, we were required by the state of Florida to make sure we had certain safety measures in place, and we could either have school resource officers in place or we could have the Guardian program in place. Santa Rosa County is fortunate enough, and thank Bob Johnson for that. He's been great and he's been helpful with the school district, but Bob Johnson has taken a large part of his budget to dedicate and help out with the expense for making sure we have safe schools every day. We now have a school resource officer in every school, but I would like to see school resource officers, at least 2 in every school. And if not 2 in every school to begin with, we get 2 in the larger schools, and then we work to get more in place. So for me, it's just an issue where you increase security at the same time, but also students need to have a positive interaction with law enforcement. And there's no better way for that to happen than through a great resource officer at the school, and I've seen that relationship happen many times.
Okay. David Gunter, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Our next candidate is Michael Thorpe, Republican candidate for Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you. And likewise, I would like to thank the great debate team for putting on this excellent event. Mike, thank you. Also, an excellent first name there as well. I'd like to thank the folks that are tuning in also online, and thank you for taking time on your night to tune in with us. Hopefully there's several of you out there watching. I am Michael Thorpe, and I am one of the candidates for Santa Rosa County Superintendent of Schools, and I'm honored to be standing here this moment speaking to you. And I think my friend David Gunter said it just right a few minutes ago. One of the questions we get all the time is why? Why in the world would you want to run for superintendent of school? So let me address that first, if I could. I was a student at Milton High School in 1987. My wife and I graduated from Milton in the 80s, and I won't tell you when she graduated from there, but we were both right around the same year. Let me just put it that way. Just a few months before graduation, however, I had sort of a tragic event happen in my life. I went to sleep one night after playing a baseball game for the Milton High School baseball team, woke up the next morning completely paralyzed on the left side of my body. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk, really couldn't think at that moment. Parents swooped me up, took me to the hospital. Within the next 24 hours, I was getting a brain surgery to save my life and had to start over again. But what was so amazing was the number of teachers that came through that hospital door once I started the recovery. The number of folks that came from Milton High School to see me, came from Baghdad Elementary where I had went at one time, came from Hobbs Middle School where I had attended as well, just to come see me. It changed my life. Certainly the injury changed my life. The sickness changed my life, but seeing these people and these people helping me feel somewhat normal again, what was an amazing situation. I spent a year in the hospital. I was able to leave the hospital just long enough for them to take me and literally let me get across the stage on the Milton High School Stadium in 1987. I'm telling you, it changed me. It made me at that moment want to work in Santa Rosa County, want to be a teacher, want to be part of that family. And I've been fortunate to be part of that family for 27 years, starting my 28th year this year, starting my career at Holly Navarre Middle School in the early 90s. Started my career teaching 6th grade math and spent a little bit of time teaching science over that summer. And sort of when you teach summer school, you get all the grade levels. So 6th through 8th grade science over the summer, about 5 hours a day, every day. You'll earn your stripes in that kind of situation. But had an opportunity to do that over the summer. Spent time at High Navarre for many years teaching. This election is about who the citizens think can carry out the vision for Santa Rosa County. What vision do we have? I'm talking about the 3 candidates and who can actually make it happen. So I'm going to talk, as I'm telling you about my history, I would like to talk about some of the things I've been involved in, not to bolster myself. Listen, everything that Michael Thorpe has been able to accomplish has been the result of making sure he was surrounded by great people and standing on the shoulders of unbelievable teachers, unbelievable ed support folks, other administrators in the district. So you'll hear me speak to that over the next few minutes here. In my first year of teaching at High Navarre Middle School, the principal came to me and said, wouldn't it be cool if we could do online report cards? Not sure why he said that to me, other than I was the new guy and I had a little bit of computer experience at the time. So I went about the business of learning how to code and wrote up that little application that our teachers used, and we were able to do online report cards. The first school in Santa Rosa County ever to do that. Now that is the practice. I was able to do that in my first year. Moved on through my time at High Navarre Middle School, where I taught 7th grade math, 8th grade math, taught science along the way there. Spent a year teaching something called the Second Wind program. These students were 7th graders who were pretty old seventh graders in some cases, 16, 17 years old maybe, and we were trying to work out a way to move them from seventh grade up to ninth grade in 1 year. So I was given the opportunity to teach math to these students, and we had some success stories, and we had some that didn't go great. But what it taught me during that time is I had a pretty easy time in high school, to be quite honest with you, but it taught me that not every student is just gifted with math ability or science ability, and we have to do things different for every child. We have to meet children where they are, and we were able to do that with many of our second win students that year. But after spending some time at High Navarre Middle School, I had the opportunity to move back to my alma mater, Milton High School, where I came back to teach algebra. Spent a year teaching algebra, and during that first year of teaching algebra, a man by the name of Jack Williamson, who was our job coach, came to me and said, Mike, I understand that you did a little programming down in Navarre, and certainly I did. And he said, well, what would it be like if we taught something called web design? So the very next year, I was given the opportunity to teach web design as the first web design teacher in Santa Rosa County, and eventually web design became available in every high school in the district, but was honored to lead that charge right there at Milton High School. Spent some time doing that, eventually became the head of that CTE department at Milton High School, and as the head of the CTE department was able to introduce 3D animation into the CTE program at our school. Along the way, I was teaching television production as well. But also along the way, the principal came to me, Mr. Lynn, and said, wouldn't it be neat if our students could register online? So I dusted off the old coding skills and brushed up on a few more of them, to be quite honest with you, and wrote a program that I named eReg. And that program allowed our students to register online for the classes they wanted to take the next year. Pace High School used that program, Fort Walton Beach used that program, Choctaw High School used that program. Now that's the standard that goes on in our whole school district. Again, being the first one to see a problem, work on the problem with an innovative approach, and come up with a result. Spent some time, as I said, with the director of the department chair of CTE at Milton High School. Eventually moved into deaning and coached along the way, and had the opportunity to become an assistant principal at Milton High School. During my time as assistant principal at Milton High School, I approached the school district about the opportunity to bring credit recovery programs into the school district that were online so students could recover credits and graduate as close to on time as possible, these students that were behind. We were the first school to be given that opportunity. I led that program at our school. Again, now the standard in all middle school and high schools in Santa Rosa County. When I brought it into the school district with the help of the school board and some unbelievable teachers, it was called Ed Options. Now it's Edgenuity, but we do that throughout the district. Again, looking at a problem, looking at an innovative approach, and trying to come up with a solution that leads to results. Had the opportunity to move as principal to Milton High School. And some people, maybe people even in this room, get so tired of going, I'm so tired of hearing this guy say that his school in his first year as principal moved from a D to an A, and it was the only school in the history of the state of Florida, high school, I need to qualify, a high school, that has ever done that before and has ever done it since. I never get tired of saying that, and I can tell you the students that were at that school during that time, the teachers that helped make that happen at the school during that time, they never get tired of hearing me say that. And the community who was so sick and tired of being looked down upon because of the grade that was occurring at Milton High School year after year after year, they are not tired about me saying that. So I'm honored to say again tonight that during my first year as principal at Milton High School, we moved from a D to an A. On the shoulders of unbelievable teachers, community members, and students that were just amazing. One of the students is in this audience right now. It's my son, Dylan Thorpe. He was a ninth grader that year. So, Dylan, thank you for being here tonight. Not for that reason, but for you had to be here because you're my son, sort of. But thank you for being here. Had the opportunity to do that as a principal. Spent 6 years at principal at Milton High School. Of course, I didn't give you all the numbers before, but it's 13 years as a teacher before I moved into administration as a principal. But moved into the administrative realm at the district level in 2015, April 1st of 2015, matter of fact, where I serve today, still serve today as director of Instructional Technology and Professional Development. And I'm honored, and I will continue to say it over and over and over again, honored to have worked with my friend Dr. Karen Barber on bringing STEAM, we refer to it as Innovate, STEAM, Innovate into Santa Rosa County. She and I sat down and worked on a plan for this in 2015, presented it to the board, and we are so proud of what has occurred during that time. Now, we started off, when we looked at that plan, we started off looking at how can the classroom be transformed? How can teaching and learning be transformed? But what we have seen kids engage at a deeper level like we've never could imagine. Worksheets are not the norm in these Innovate classrooms anymore. It's hands-on, real-world, relevant activities that will do something for them as they move into a job in the future. And really, isn't that what a school district's about? Tooling a child so they can have a sustainable job in the future. That's what we should be doing. But Dr. Barber and I worked on that, and what we were so surprised to see, we didn't only transform the classroom, the teachers didn't just transform teaching and learning. What we really saw was the transformation of teaching and learning in the living room. Because what we see from the students in an Innovate classroom, we see them asking mom and dad about their careers. We see them showing mom and dad how they learned how to do this or they learned how to do that. Just an amazing transformation that has occurred. And again, that is teachers doing amazing things, but it's also principals doing amazing things. We have one here tonight, principal from Avalon Middle School, Dr. Shepard, who is here, who has done amazing work at her school with STEAM Innovate. She actually put into place a STEAM elective for her 7th grade students to participate in. Her school this year will be leading efforts across the district and doing some amazing enhanced work around STEM and STEAM when it comes to working with Lego Corporation and some coding and robotics that go on with that. So it has really taken off and done some amazing things. As the person in charge of professional development, instructional technology in the district, I've had the opportunity to take to the board a professional development piece a few years ago where we knew that we were losing new teachers. Took to the board a plan, and in that plan we put in place 10 district mentors that really target brand new teachers, walk with the new teachers through the first 3 years of their career. We've been able to retain teachers at a deeper level. Retention is important to what we do. Our teacher retention rates for these teachers we have been targeting has improved from 79% to over 95%. And I'm very proud of that. Very proud of the work that my team has done around that. Time and time again in Santa Rosa County, when Michael Thorpe has been posed with a problem, I have looked at an innovative approach, I have jumped into action, and results have been delivered each and every time. And I'm proud of that. And I'm ready to take on things like the coronavirus. I'm ready to take on growth. I'm ready to take on how can we prepare our kids to be future-ready workers. What does that look like in the future? I don't even know if we know, but I know we need to give them the tools they need in the classroom each and every day so whatever job exists out there in the future, they will be ready for it. And that's my goal. Many people ask me often, Mike, I know you've been very involved with some of the remote learning and everything around coronavirus, and we all three have been really involved in the planning team, I should say. So this is not just a Mike Thorpe thing. I just want to give credit where credit's due. All three of us have been involved in this. But what would I have done differently? I wish we'd have pivoted to the remote option earlier, because in my mind, what I could have seen is us bringing teachers in over the summer to train them up, help get their curriculum where they needed to be for the start of the school year. And then we could have also, I feel like, been having some regional meetings, principals leading regional meetings in their schools, offering 3, 4, 5, 6 different times for parents just to come in and get questions answered. Because Karen's right, there are a million questions out there, and we are trying our best to answer as many as we can. Buddy held up a document earlier, and we're going to be releasing some other documents like that in the coming days. I hope you'll consider giving Mike Thorpe a chance, a guy who has consistently been posed a problem, worked on the problem, brought folks together. You won't hear me tearing down any candidate. I can promise you that. Because if I'm fortunate enough to win, I'm going to need them. I'm smart enough to know I need great people around me to help me. This job is about bringing people together. I think all these jobs are. And when a candidate stands up, anybody in any race, and rips another candidate, how are they going to automatically change and bring folks together? I just ask the citizens to think about that. I'm Michael Thorpe. I hope you will consider me for your superintendent of schools when you get a chance to vote on August 18th. Thank you.
Well, you've got 26 seconds left,
Right.
but there's
Hit
not
me.
really
Go
time
ahead,
to
hit
ask
me.
it. No, there's really not time for a
I'll
question.
answer quick.
All right. Well, the last question then that was submitted was, do you think that the school board should send a representative to a county zoning board meeting? And if so, for what purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I've told many of the candidates that are running for Board of County Commissioner that one of the first things I will do if I'm lucky enough to be elected, and I'm hurrying because I know my time's running out, I will be reaching out to any candidate as one or any candidate or any sitting commissioner, because we have to walk step in step, and we have to put together a 10, 20, 30-year plan. That plan has to be together. So we have to be at the table. We have to be there. Our voice needs to be heard. But we also need to hear the issues they're dealing with.
Okay. Michael Thorpe, Republican candidate for superintendent of schools. So before we get to the county commission, we do have an inserted candidate who was not here at the beginning of the event, but has arrived since. So David Farrow is seeking the Republican State Committeeman position for Santa Rosa County. So David, if you'll come up, 15 minutes, and whatever portion of that 15 minutes you don't use will be used for questions.
Thank you.
Well, my name is David Farrow. I am running for State Committeeman for Santa Rosa County. I think I'd like to start off by explaining to you, because most of you probably have never heard what a State Committeeman is all about. We are the liaison between the county, Santa Rosa County, and the state Republican Party. We will bring our ideas to the state, and the state will, in return, submit their ideas for us. One thing that I plan to do is I am going to hold this position at absolutely zero cost to the citizens or the Republican Party of Santa Rosa County. In the past, we've paid people to go, but you know what? We don't really need to be collecting monies that our Republican Party does not have. So, in saying that, to give you some more information, we would elect district chairman to the state committee. We assist in creating and implementing voter registration throughout the county. As far as myself, I will be doing promotions for the Republican Party. I will be doing fundraising for the Republican Party. When I moved here in 2016, we were doing nothing. We would just meet, talk, and go home. I started asking, why aren't we doing certain things like getting involved in these craft shows and a lot of the things that go on in this community. The Peanut Festival. What a wonderful place to meet and bring people into the Republican Party. And I have done that. I actually had one program that I implemented as far as a fundraiser, and that was back 2 years ago in which we had a turkey shoot. Now, you know, that's one thing you don't see done around here very often by any political party. But it's important for me not to just let you know about what we do as a committee man, a state committee man, but also I think you need to know a little bit about me. One of the most often asked questions from me is, David, why would you want to do this job if there's nothing in it for you? You don't get paid or reimbursed for your hotel or any food that you eat. And I've explained it like this. When my son was in the 3rd grade, I was on the school executive committee. And from the 3rd grade until his senior year, I was on that board. And why was I on that board? Not because of what I could gain out of it. There was nothing to be gained except for one thing: the improvement of the school system for my son and his friends and their friends, and so on and so on. Money isn't everything. I'm a blessed man. I am a rich man. My wife is sitting over there. That's what makes me rich, my family. And I want to give back what has been given to me so graciously by this community and the community that I lived in prior to moving here. I moved to Georgia in 1979 to go to school. I was so blessed because I grew up in Brentwood Park, where you weren't expected to be much or do anything. You know, you were just expected to exist. But I went to school up there, and after school, while going to school, I worked for an appliance company, and I went to electronics school up there, and it fit hand in hand. After leaving my school, I stayed in the appliance industry, whereby I grew a small appliance company from nothing but a dream into $1 million business. It was tough. It wasn't easy. And I am the kind of person that I like to think, what will make this better? And by doing so, I built the appliance store. It grew. I bought another business. It grew. And that's why I don't need to be paid. There's no reason for it. We should be giving back. Those of us that have made it, those of us that have been successful, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale, we should give back to our communities. I gave back to my community up in Woodstock, Georgia. I was on the Republican board back there. I was a committee man back there. I went to several of the state conventions, county conventions, and I didn't go there to gain anything other than to give back. And that's what we should be doing, is giving back to our community, giving back to our state. And I want so much to stop hearing, well, can we do it with Escambia? No harm to Escambia, that's where I grew up, okay? But no, why shouldn't Escambia be saying, you know what? Santa Rosa's got an excellent REC, Republican Executive Committee. We should work with them There's no reason that we should be looking up to them or looking up to Okaloosa. I think it's time we turned it and allow them to look up to us and say, you know, those guys are doing some innovative stuff. We need to get involved with them. We need to find out what they're doing. And this is one thing I want to do as a state committee man. I want to grow the Republican Executive Committee. I want the voters that are Republican out here to know that they have a state committee or Santa Rosa Executive REC that will stand behind them, that will support them, that will give them guidance. For the first time since I moved here in 2016, we had our first, it wasn't a debate, but it was a question and answer session for the county commissioners. I've been pushing for this for 4 years since I first moved here. And this is something that needs and should be done every 2 years, whether it's for the county commission, whether it's for the any of the elective offices that we hold every 2 years. The city has their election this year. You know, it's a shame we couldn't have one for it, but it was just not enough time. And one of the biggest problems with us not getting things done is because we're not planning ahead. You guys have seen it in school, plan ahead. You know, they ran out of room because they didn't plan it. We need to plan things. We need to express our opinions. We need to express what needs to be done. And we need to ask for help when we need it. Again, I'm David Farrow. I would appreciate your vote for state committee man, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you. Many of you I recognize as customers of mine. I do appliance repair here in the city, in the county of Santa Rosa, and I'm blessed. I have a contract with Whirlpool and Frigidaire. I do a lot of their work. And like I said, very, very blessed, and I don't need payment for what I do. Wait a minute, except for when I'm working in your house. No, but as far as the state committee man goes, we should not be paying anyone to go to the state to bring back information for us and to take our information to them. Thank you so much.
We do have 3.5 minutes. If anybody has questions, please come to the microphone. You can ask a question if you'd like. Okay, well then I will ask a question. Have you been active in Republican politics in Santa Rosa County? And if so, can you list your accomplishments?
Yes, I ran for city council 2 years ago. There were 3 of us running. I did not win, but I'm okay with that. I hold no ill will towards anyone that can beat me. None whatsoever, because I believe it's God's will that I did not win to allow me to run for this office, probably. Oh, yeah, and would you repeat the question?
Well, the question was, what have you done in Santa Rosa County with the Republican Party over the years? Have you been active, and if so, what were your accomplishments?
Okay. I've only been here since 2016, By the way, I graduated from Milton High School in 1968, just a few years ago. Grew up in Brentwood Park, and like I had mentioned earlier, I held a turkey shoot for the Republican Executive Committee, in which we earned almost $2,000 in proceeds from that.
What kind of organizational changes would you make within the Republican Party of Santa Rosa County if you're elected to be the state committeeman?
What I'd like to see is I would like to see more of Tallahassee meeting in Santa Rosa County. I'd like to see our governor meet here more often. I think Santa Rosa County has a lot to offer to the state. Let's face reality, Santa Rosa and the Panhandle is what helped put President Trump into office. And I think we have a lot to offer to them, and would appreciate the opportunity to speak to them, to get them to start coming.
Okay. David Farrow, candidate for Republican State Committeeman. Thank you. Okay, so this does take us now to the Santa Rosa County Commission races. We will start with Stacy Bryan, Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 1.
I have to say that I really enjoy following the superintendent race. Karen, David, Michael, I like the positivity that you guys bring to the table and into your campaigns. And I think that you guys are going to be, no matter who's chosen out of your group, a asset to working with the county commissioners. So I'm Stacy Bryan. I'm run for County Commissioner District 1. And thank you guys for putting on this event, Michael. In 10 days, we have the opportunity to be a part of a turning point in Santa Rosa County. This turning point is going to be where us, the citizens, finally get to vote and change out our county commissioners that we've been complaining about for the last 4 years. You know, we need to have our voices heard at the voting booth this year. I think that we've seen too much happen that we've disagreed with, and we feel like we haven't been listened to on the county level. You know, we will no longer be at the mercy of special interests. We will no longer have our commissioners to grade us for us speaking out. We have to see, we've seen our tax dollars this past year get spent for a special election for the loss tax. We didn't ask for that tax. We didn't ask for the money to be spent on it. It could have been pushed back to this year. But these are just prime examples of how our county commissioners are not listening to us, not listening to the voters, and not listening to when we say that we don't want any new taxes until impact fees come into play. Our school system needs us. We'll work together as county commissioner and the school board and the school superintendents to make sure that we push this forward. So an elected official must represent all of the county and not just a select few. You know, special interest has had its hand in our government for way too long. We deserve a business-like approach to our county government, our county budget, and my business background, my public service background, and my critical thinking skills are what I bring to the table. As I've said before, I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. Just like Trump started as a businessman, I've started as a businessman wanting to bring that business-like attitude to our county budget. So I'm going to leave you guys a lot of time for questions, but I would like to end my speech here with a quote from Ronald Reagan. It says, "I've come to the conclusion that politics are too serious a matter to be left to politicians." And this plays into part for our county right now more than ever. Let's get politicians out of our county and public service back into our county. And I guess I don't get any questions unless, oh, Pond Creek. If we did, so Pond Creek, I used to swim there when I was a kid about your age, and the water was clean. And since then, I don't think that we've kept up with our septic tank, our sewer system, and inspected them like they were supposed to. If you look at the sewer system, we should all be tied into it eventually. We don't need effluent going into our river basins. We don't need them going into our sound. We don't need them going into areas that we want to swim. So I hope that, once I get in the job, I'm going to take and push forward, make sure that the inspections are done properly, and that we're not cutting any corners when it comes to septic tanks. Because it's a beautiful place. It always was, and it's a nice park there. So you kind of miss, so question time, I'm going to leave you a lot of room, a lot of time.
Are you saying I came back just in time?
Yes, I was going to have a seat.
I figured everybody else could go to the bathroom when they wanted to. I was kind of stuck up here, so I didn't want to call for a break because I figured anybody else could go when they needed to. But so the priority, as we mentioned, is questions from the room. So if you have a question, please approach this microphone and you can ask the question. That does take priority. Second priority are those questions that were written in advance. So here's a question for you. Do you support an amendment to Florida Statute 100.361, which would allow registered voters to recall county officials?
I think that would probably be a good idea. I have not looked into it completely, but if that came on the ballot, I would definitely research it. And I think that just hearing from it in the very beginning, I think it would not be a bad idea.
All right. Let's see what other questions we have here. Many of these are specific to a candidate, so I'm passing those. But here's one that was asked, that it be asked of all the candidates.
All right.
And that is, would you consider readdressing the new garbage plan? It's probably the most controversial issue in the county today, it seems.
So we're in a 5-year contract with the garbage plan. Whether we believe in it or not, I think we're kind of stuck there, unless, because I haven't seen the contract yet, I hope that they put in performance clauses in there, because if there are performance clauses, then we can look at if they're not following what they're supposed to do, not picking up trash, raising rates, or leaving us stuck without trash pickup in certain areas, that we can take and go back on that contract and look at a better solution.
Okay. Priority question from those in
Yes.
attendance.
And especially based on the first question that you were asked, how do you feel about commissioners having term limits in office in our local government to ensure that we have many voices heard, but also that I feel like the other question was kind of going towards, it's almost like merit-based if they can recall commissioners. So how do you feel about term limits and the expectations of commissioners as they sit on the board?
Yes, thanks, Becca. I think
You're welcome.
that term limits are definitely a great idea. We have seen our county commissioners have been in office way too long, and it no longer becomes public service. Once you're there and you're making deals and you're getting, I hate to say special privileges, but we also know that we've seen our county commissioners that are into a spot where they're there too long, and if we're not going to take and vote them out, because when you look at incumbents running, about 85% of the time they win. And it's because of name recognition and being out in the community already. And there's some people that are just donating large amount of money, as we've seen in this election, where we have 2 candidates who have donated up to $100,000 for a $70,000 job. I would be up here running for this position if it paid minimum wage.
All right. What methods would you use to continue any kind of responsible growth while jump-starting infrastructure and building in Santa Rosa County?
It goes back to the budget. We need a budget that works for infrastructure. We need a budget that works for our police department. We need to have a audit of that budget by an external source, not a county source, to make sure that we're not spending money in places that we shouldn't be until we take care of that infrastructure first. And I think there was a second part of that question.
Well, it's got to do with infrastructure and building within the county, responsible growth. It's an
Responsible
overarching
growth,
question.
that's it. And we have to take and make sure that we're spending it. You know, there's nothing wrong with a forensic audit of our budget.
Okay, many of these questions are related, so I'm going through them here. The next question is, where do you stand on tax increases?
Tax increases should be voted on by the people if we need it. But if you start with responsible spending and go back to doing what we were supposed to in the first place, infrastructure, start with that. And if we can show the people that we're spending that money appropriately, and if we need to go back and ask for a half-cent sales tax renewal, then at least we have the records to show that say, look, we've been spending your money the way that it was supposed to be spent. So it goes back to the people. So if we can show that responsible spending has started and we can continue that for the next 4 years, I think most people will say that they'll agree that a half-cent sales tax continuation is a good idea.
If the voters did not approve a tax increase, how would you deal with a projected budget shortfall without raising taxes?
You'd have to go back to cutting service. If you look at what we're doing now, and you have to prioritize every single thing that you do. Infrastructure comes first. Sidewalks, parks, street lamps, those are going to be additional things added on later. But if you can't move that traffic first, if you can't solve the drainage problems first, then you're not going to have anyone wanting to come in, live in your area, and pay any taxes toward it.
Santa Rosa County is a very diverse county. The needs of Jay are different than the needs of Navarre, which are different than the needs of Gulf Breeze, which are different than the needs of Milton. How do you as a candidate have a plan to deal with each district as being equally important to the county?
Now, the good thing is that we have 5 county commissioners. All of us are pretty diverse. We come from different backgrounds, different business backgrounds. So it's a matter of just working with everyone and each county commissioner to know the needs of their district, but not be afraid to step outside of their district. I grew up in the north end of the county. I know what the peanut farms look like. I've worked those fields out there before. My children go to gymnastics in Navarre, so we spend a lot of time down there. We'd like to talk to everybody all between those 2 areas to make sure that we're hearing their concerns. And I think it's just a matter of being available and returning phone calls, returning emails, and listening to people.
Please describe the impact fees lawsuit and give us your position on it.
Well, the impact fee lawsuit, I think our school board members summarized that pretty well, and I think we need to look at making sure that that doesn't happen again, that when we're taking and asking for this to come through, if we want the impact fees to come through, make sure that we're doing all those things that check the boxes to make sure that we're meeting all the requirements to ask for that impact fee first. I'm hoping that the impact fees go through. I think it's going to be a great addition for our schools. But the lawsuit-wise, we're going to wait to see how that turns out. There's no sidestepping it.
Do you have a plan to deal with any problems at the animal shelter? And do you believe the South End needs its own animal services facility?
I think that we should look at volunteer groups to come in and help out with that. We have volunteer groups in the north end of the county, and I'd like to see that extend to the south end as well. We can look at grant money to be available for no-kill shelters, spade and neuter, to cut the cost for people. And I would like to see that happen in the south end as well.
What kind of projects, if any, would you like to see funded through the Restore money?
I think I should have spoke for longer because then I wouldn't get so many questions. But anybody keeping time? So, but
Minute 55 left.
so I'm sorry. The question was about
Restore Act money. This is Triumph Gulf Coast from the
Right.
BP Horizon spill.
Yes.
That the money is going to the counties
So
in the
Triumph Gulf
Panhandle.
Coast, there is still 10 years out from the BP oil spill, and there's still money sitting in that, but sitting in the bank account. They draw money off that every month. We have so many projects that have been applied for Triumph Gulf Coast. We need to work with Triumph Gulf Coast Board, our county commissioners do, to push for that money to be released. Really, 10 years afterwards, we should be pushing for that money to, especially with after COVID, we have seen our economy kind of come down. That money was all for restore after BP. So 10 years later, we're still working on that. So I'd like to see more grants written, more grants for independent businesses, and more grants for Santa Rosa County.
Do you have a plan to protect encroachment upon Whiting Field and protect the mission of the Navy in Santa Rosa County?
I think we've done a great job over the last decade or two with protecting that land already. I would like to see it continue. We rely heavily on our military bases, our military retirees to come in. And I think that we need to continue that conversation with military executives and make sure that we're providing them with the space that they need to grow. And fortunately, we have a lot of land out in that area, and I think that that would be easily accomplished.
Okay, you got 8 seconds left if you want to give people a quick wrap
Show
up.
up and vote Tuesday. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, everybody. I mean, this is your one chance this year to make a difference. So thank you very much.
All right. Stacy Bryan, Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 1. Next up is Jeff Ross, Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 1.
In October of 2017, the county commissioners said that they needed a judicial tax to raise money for a courthouse and for the sheriff's department. Now, I know that this county is a rich county. We got plenty of money, plenty of tax revenue coming in from all this new development. So that was my inspirational moment to decide to throw my hat in the ring to run for county commissioner. Now, by no means am I a politician at all. I'm a retired Navy senior chief. I spent 20 years in the United States Navy. I was a financial analyst in the United States Navy, or a logistics guy. I was a computer programmer in the United States Navy. I was working with BASIC, Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code, writing financial programs to manage and recon Navy budgets, basically, is the best way to explain it. So I'm very familiar with handling and managing taxpayer money. So when the county commissioners say we need money for a courthouse, I start doing my research and my investigation and my legwork, and I realized that basically what they wanted was a slush fund, not money for a courthouse. They did a non-binding referendum where they spent over $400,000 and put that tax increase on the ballot. I remember you guys paid for that. We all paid for that. And we voted it down 67% because we know, we're smart citizens, we know that we got plenty of money in the general fund to fund the infrastructure and the things that we need to operate this county. We're working very hard as a citizens group, and we shut down that sales tax increase. I'm a fiscal conservative Republican, which means that I believe that the government should spend less money than it takes in, which puts us into a surplus, which can then be used for future growth. I think we need to put an infrastructure fund in place, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 50 years down the road. The Navarre Beach Bridge that runs from 98 over to Navarre Beach is obsolete. Now, obsolete doesn't mean that it's going to fall into the bay and it's not a danger. Obsolete means it's no longer operationally ready for the traffic that it has to handle with the exponential growth that we have in Santa Rosa County. What is the plan right now for our county commissioners to replace that bridge? There is no plan. There's no infrastructure fund put in place. There's nothing. So in 10 years from now, when that bridge is no longer deemed operational, using military terms, they're going to be screaming for a tax increase, a sales tax increase, a property tax increase, because we got to buy this new bridge. We need to start planning right now to replace that bridge. Garson Point Bridge is a $5 one-way toll to go from the north end to the south end, and then another $5 to go from the south end. It's $10 to use that bridge. And we have a leadership problem, in my opinion, with that toll. When you start charging $10 for citizens to travel on that bridge, people are not going to use it. And that's going to interfere with the job and growth development of Navarre and Gulf Breeze and Midway. Because you're going to have people that live in Milton and Pace and Pea Ridge who may have a job in Navarre, Gulf Breeze, and Midway, but they're not going to go and they're not going to spend that $10 to get to work, which means they may seek employment elsewhere other than down in the South End, which affects the economy of our great county. We have to look at bringing those Maryland bond holders, there's bankers in Maryland that own that bridge, who are running that effective means of commerce and transportation for the citizens of this county. And it's hurting us economically. So as your county commissioner, I will go to Tallahassee and bring together the state representatives and the bondholders and myself and say, look, we need to renegotiate this deal. I spent almost 18 years in the Highland auto industry closing deals, walking away from bad deals, writing good deals, and basically, as a businessman, we need to think smarter and bring those bondholders back here and say, let's lower that toll to $1. Can you imagine the economic growth that we would have? The property values on Avalon Road would increase because of the removal of that massive toll that people drive around. Folks are going to drive to Scenic Highway, come across the bridge that way, or they're going to go down Highway 87 to get to Navarre. So those are two bridges that we need to look at, the Navarre Beach Bridge and the Avalon and the Garson Point Bridge. Now we have people saying, well, we have issues with Woodbine Road and traffic. Understandable. When you start dropping in 700 houses off of Woodbine Road without infrastructure in place to support it, you're going to have some serious problems on Woodbine Road, which comes back to concurrency laws and land development codes. Now, I've been told that the land development code for Santa Rosa County is being rewritten, but who's rewriting the land development code? Is it somebody outside of our county that has no ties to the county with no special interest in the county, or is it being written by people in our county? Okay, a land development code decides how many houses you put on a square acre of land, as a simple way to explain it. So when you have exponential growth and you have citizens on Woodbine Road saying, what are we going to do? We're not going to be able to get to work. We're not going to be able to get to doctor's appointments because we're going to be sitting in traffic for 45 minutes just to get off the highway onto Highway 90. So what I did was I spoke with the people way smarter than me. I spoke with engineers. I spoke with FDOT. And some of their recommendations were to put a bridge in through Florida Town, where there used to be an old ferry, over to Pensacola. So you add another bridge, which will then open up the bottleneck on Highway 90, which will then free up the traffic pattern on Woodbine Road. So when you get bottleneck on Woodbine Road and everybody's going to Pensacola, they're making a right turn or they're making a left turn, depending on where they work. But if you put in another bridge, which can be funded through the state, if we plan it smartly and if we start working these deals properly, then that's going to open up Woodbine Road. When I filed to run for county commissioner, I had to learn the strategic and operational way this county operates. You know, you just don't throw your hat in the ring and run for office and say, okay, I want to be your county commissioner. You got to know exactly what you're going to do when you get in that chair. You don't want to be shooting from the hip. So that's exactly what I did. I've been running for office now for almost 3 years. Some of you know who I am, some of you don't know who I am. But I've been running for office for 3 years, almost. And in that time, I worked with the Sheriff's Department. I went on patrol. I got into the dirt and the muck, and I waded through the swamp with the deputies for 82 hours on patrol. After 50 hours, the deputy said, man, here's a challenge coin, Senior Chief. Thank you for riding with us. You got to get and learn and understand what we have to go through as a deputy sheriff in this county. It's not easy work. It's not easy work. And I did it for 82 hours, and I learned a lot of the weaknesses and their strengths, which will help me as your county commissioner to address those issues if you elect me to that position. For example, there were communication problems when you're trying to contact dispatch. There are dead zones in the county where you can't get in touch with dispatch. You don't want to send a deputy into a dangerous situation without communications. What if he gets shot? How's he going to communicate for backup? How's he going to communicate for emergency responders? He's not going to be able to do it. So when I was asked the question, when I was on patrol with the deputy about 11 o'clock one night, the deputy said, what would you do? I said, well, I wouldn't send you into that dangerous situation if you don't have communications. SIM cards. So there's the issue with the sheriff's deputies. You got SIM cards in the back of computers that you need for communication so you can run a tag on somebody. You want to run a tag on. If you don't have a SIM card that's operating, you can't run a tag. You can't find out who's in that car. If somebody runs a red light, you want to know who's in the car, right? Can't do it sometimes. We were chasing some kids. It was about midnight, and there were some kids running through the woods, and they had baseball bats, and they were tearing up mailboxes. And the deputy said, "You want to come on this one?" I said, "Come on, let's go." So I ran with them. And one of the deputies messed up his boots while he was on patrol. Tore up his boots. And he said, "Man, I got to buy new boots." I said, "Hold on a second. As a sheriff deputy, you got to buy your own boots? Isn't there not a clothing allowance for that? I mean, shouldn't us taxpayers who you're defending and protecting, shouldn't we cover you a pair of boots?" He said, "No. As your county commissioner, I'm going to propose a boot allowance for our deputies." I mean, it's a small thing. If we've got county commissioners right now funding $300,000 extensions to the Pace Library, I'm sure we can afford a pair of boots for a deputy that gets tore up on a patrol. I went to animal services. I went to animal control, and I did a tour of animal services. I learned their operation. They've got these giant laundromats in the back there. I mean, they're huge. I felt like I was in a Navy ship where they do the laundry. Because when you're taking care of dogs and cats, you know, you're bathing them, and you're taking care of them, and you have to dry them. You got to have a place to wash the rags. People don't think about this. Those laundromats are expensive. And animal control is saying, look, we need to be able to replace these. Okay, we got to replace these. How about a spay and neuter clinic? There's a lot of folks in the county that, they may not be able to quite afford to spay or neuter their animals. So let's have a spay and neuter clinic at animal control. Why not? We got all this money that's being wasted on million-dollar sidewalks to nowhere. They built restrooms down on Navarre Beach for $250,000. For $250,000, you know what I could do? I could probably build a 3-bedroom house. There was some land up in Chamackler that had this beautiful 3-bedroom house sitting on it. Beautiful home. And I was amazed to learn that the county commissioners bought it from this private citizen. Now, I'm not blaming the private citizen because it's a free market. But the county commissioners bought this beautiful $350,000, 4,000 square foot home, and you know what they did with it? They demolished it to extend a football field. That's our money, ladies and gentlemen. That's insane. They took our tax money, bought a beautiful home in Chamackler, destroyed it just to extend a football field or a soccer field or whatever. That is total unacceptable behavior of our tax dollars. Now, I would put myself on the right-hand side of the political spectrum. I'm a right-sided conservative, and I'm a fiscal conservative, and I will make sure that your tax dollars is not wasted like that. It's unacceptable. Like I said, when I was in the United States Navy, the best way to describe my job was I was a financial analyst. It's the only way I can really describe it. And I was reconning and reconciling millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer money. When I was forward deployed to the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, a fast attack submarine would come in, and this fast attack submarine would want to spend some money. They're going to buy missiles. They're going to want to buy food. They're going to buy this and buy that. It costs a lot of money. And I was the guy that would reconcile that money to make sure it was not misappropriated. I am very able and competently sure that I can manage taxpayer money in Santa Rosa County just as efficiently, as effectively as I did when I was forward deployed in the United States Navy during Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm, taking care of 18 fast attack submarines from a submarine unit called the USS Orion. I served 20 years in the Navy. I served almost 18 years in the highline auto industry. And now here I am running for county commissioner to give something back to the community. This is my county. This is your county. I'll work for you guys. You know, the county commissioner paycheck, I believe, is $5,600 a month. That's a lot of money. That's what, $68,000 rounded up a year? What have our county commissioners done to earn that money so far? Take $68,000, times it by 5, and that's how much you're paying these 5 guys to run this county per year. And what have they done for you? I'm not bashing them. And Mike is getting up. Am I running out of time? Okay, any questions, folks? Do you have any questions? Pond Creek. I tell you what, young man, I'm going to come to Pond Creek with you tomorrow after church. I'm a pastoral counselor at my church, Hickory Hammock. I've got to give you a plug. Tomorrow, young man, I will come with you to Pond Creek, and we'll go check it out together. How about that? Sound good? All right. Question? Oh.
We are now out of time, though. Well, yeah, we are, in fact, out of time. I'm sorry. I can't extend it. But after the event, I'm sure Jeff will be happy to. So Jeff
Ross, thank you.
Republican candidate for County Commission District 1. Moving to the County Commission District 3 race. There are 3 candidates in attendance tonight. We will start with Ryan Adkins, Republican candidate for County Commission District 3.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank y'all for coming tonight, and I appreciate y'all for hosting us, Mike, and the rally, because without everybody getting involved and making things happen, we're not going to have change around here. But planning, everybody's been talking about planning, and I've been planning since I was a young fella. I grew up here, and all I wanted to do was retire. I wanted to go out there, get me a pension, come back home and retire, go hunting and fishing. Well, it's like I've told my wife, I said I'm a old soul trapped in a young body, but my body's starting to catch up now. And I just want to give back here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I grew up here. Daddy got stationed here at Whitingfield when I was about 2 years old. We moved out to Berrydale area. I went to Phi Delta's kindergarten, 8th grade, and I had a great time there. A lot of great, wonderful people, teachers. I mean, they laid the foundation on me that helped me get through life. And without thanking them and having what they taught me with them small classrooms that we had, you get all that extra instruction. And I still believe that's some of the best you can have. So I say to all the superintendents, keep pushing for smaller classrooms and class sizes. And that way those kids can get that one-on-one that they deserve. But so after that, I went to Jay and high school, and that was a little bit of a change for me because it was so small at Phi Delta, and they were kind of had their own little clique, the Phi Delta group and the J group. But we all got together, and we all played sports together and got along and had a great time. And I couldn't wait to retire and move back home to be here with all my friends and family and everybody that made this place so special. And I put my name in the hat here. I've been running the longest here out of everybody that's been running for District 3. I started back in February 2019. And I prayed on it. I prayed hard. And I felt like this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm not rich, I'm not poor, but I'm blessed. I have a lot to offer. And I'm just trying to give back. Everything that I've got now, I've worked hard for, it's paid for. But I'm doing this to help the people. And if they want help here, they'll look out and see who's the most qualified, who's the most caring. Because when I retired, let me back up a minute. I'm going to go over my Navy career real quick with you. I joined right out of high school I was 17. Mom and Daddy signed for me, and I left. Just turned 18. I spent a lot of time going to a lot of different commands. I was on the aircraft carrier, my first hitch. I was on the flight deck working, chocking and chaining, tractor drive, all that kind of stuff. Just undesignated airman recruit, E1. And I was like, when I first seen that ship, I'm like, man, what have I done? You know, I left this little town to go out here in California, and it was a change. But you know what? It's just like there anywhere else. You become a team. The people you're with, they're your family, they're your friends. They got your back, and that's what we did, and that made the days go by. And before you know it, I mean, I was back here. And I looked at stuff, and I just told my wife, I've got to do this. I'm not a politician, but I know right from wrong with all my schooling and all the commands I was at. The Navy put me through some stuff which I had never even heard of. It was airspeed and lean and Six Sigma. That was supposed to be my twilight tour. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm supposed to be retired, and y'all going to put me through something I don't even know what I'm doing. But they sent me to school for it, and it was based on the Toyota development concept. It's basically leaning out all the waste. So you go through and you make a work center or anything you've got, you streamline the process. You put your tools all right there where you're not wasting time going back and forth to get tools. You make it just run like a machine. And you can do that anywhere. You can cut out waste anywhere. You can save money anywhere. And I'm all about that. I'm all about pinching them pennies and making every tax dollar work for us, for what we want, what we need. But they put me through so many other schools. I was a quality assurance and safety supervisor. We did audits. We had CDI inspectors and QARs, and we made sure everything was good to go. Made sure that the parts were taken care of, the aircraft were taken care of, because there's no second chances if that plane falls out of the sky. Somebody dies, and you're going to have to live with that rest of your life. So I tracked a bunch of high time components on aircraft, looking at failure items, failure modes. I was a data analyst. I was a logistics analyst. I was like I said, QA and safety, maintenance control, material control, maintenance admin. I mean, I've had so many hats and done so much, not to brag, but any training that they offered me, I took. And why? Because it made me more well-rounded. It made me better at what I did. It made me more of an asset to the command. And they were always looking for me everywhere I went. And I'm glad they rotate us every 3 or 4 years so you don't get complacent at some place like happens a lot here. And what I want here out of this position is it to be a full-time job, not a part-time job. Like I said, when I first started, I got back here in 15? We moved here, had the house built, and I ran for the county administrator. And I'll tell you right now, from what I'm seeing and what I've been seeing since I've been back at these 5 years, the county administrator is pretty much running the county. He knows what's going on. You want to know what's going on, talk to him. Because these commissioners, a lot of them don't have a clue. You know why? Because it's part-time, and they go to 2 or 3 meetings a month, and that's it. Tell me, how can a commissioner know what's going on in his district, let alone the whole county? There's no way he can. And that's the problems we're facing. People aren't involved, people don't care, and that's what needs to change. We need to spend the money on the things that need to be fixed. Public safety is always going to be my number one priority, taking care of people, making sure people have what they need and are safe. We have a great place here, and it always has been. To me, it's home. I would come usually a month out of a year here on my leave. I'd take 2 weeks on 4th of July and 2 weeks around Christmas and New Year's and come see my brothers and my sisters and my dad. And like I said, my whole plan was to retire and move back home and just live out the rest of my time taking care of my dad. Things change. He's gone now, and the house has been sold, and I still got my brothers and sisters, but I got a lot of friends. I've got a lot of people here that need to be listened to and heard, and I'm going to try and be that voice for them, and that's why I was running. If we don't take a stand and make a change, when's it going to happen? I mean, how long do we put up with it? I'm not a complainer. I'm not somebody that sits back idly and watches it happen. I like to make things happen. I plan, I prioritize. You got to. With a lot of my jobs, that's what I always did. And then you have to have long-term and short-term goals and a way to get there. How are we going to get there? How are we going to achieve it? We all know the numbers. We looked at the budgets. We need to get in here. We need to audit everything we've got. We need to inventory everything we've got. And then we need the people involved and committed to say, let's make these changes. Let's focus on this direction. Everything, any asset that the county has, it should be being tracked. You know, I hear all this stuff, well, the drainage ditches are clogged. Well, they should be on an inspection cycle. I mean, I don't understand it. Somebody ain't doing their job. You know, it's cut and dry, and people need to make sure they're going around doing it. Me, if I get in there, I'm not going to be sitting there 7 days a week in that office, but I'm going to be out and about. You know, I'll definitely be there 5 days a week, but during those 48, 50, 60 hours a week that I got to put in, I'm going to be going out to the 23 departments that we have. I'm going to be riding around, and I'm going to be talking with people. People need to let me know what's going on. I don't know everything. I don't drive everywhere. I don't see everything, and you got to have input. It don't have to be always negative. It can be positive too, but we've got to work together. We've got to unite, and that's the biggest thing. When I started this, because a lot of people said, well, you're crazy. What are you doing this for? You're retired. You can, do what you want. I said, this is home. This is the people that I care about. We've got to give back. We've got to fight for what's right. And when I prayed on this, and people know me that I'm usually a pretty serious person most of the time, but I do like to have a little fun every now and then. But I was told by the Lord, and he said, unite. He said, unite. Now, y'all figure out what that means, because I keep praying on it, but he's saying unite. So if it's unite the county, if it's unite the county, the school board with the commissioners, whatever, I don't know, but it says unite. And it says work with the people, for the people, and make this place better. We can do it, but we've got to get more people involved, and we got to get focused and have plans and a way to achieve that. And I'm all about that. And our infrastructure's got to get fixed. Just like the little fellow that was sitting here a minute ago, I guess he left, but I swam there too. I remember swimming at Pond Creek, and it saddens me. Every time I see that, I see our flag being burned, it saddens me, it hurts me. Because there's a lot of people that died for these rights that we have, and a lot of things that are being taken away and we take for granted. And a lot of people just, are more worried about the dollars than they are about the things that should matter, about preserving the stuff for the future, for our kids and grandkids. So that's my biggest thing that I want to focus on. And like I said, public safety, infrastructure, and then jobs. I keep telling my wife, I said, I grew up here and I left. I could have been a farmer. I was in FFA. I was in auto mechanics. There was a bunch of stuff. Daddy taught me all sorts of things to do. He was retired, and then he was chief of police in East Bruton. And I actually was going to be a police officer in Jacksonville, and I went through all that after I retired. And they had a hiring freeze for police and firemen, and I got a call from Andromeda Systems Incorporated, which was a Navy contractor, and they said, hey, we'll get you in here. And I'd been 4 or 5 months since I'd worked, and I was like, I got a house payment and car payments and all this debt. Wife's starting to teach school, and I definitely need something. So I started that, and I got a call a couple months later after I'd signed on with them for a couple of years, and saying, hey, yeah, we're ready for your interview after I done went through all the other stuff. And I said, hey, I think the Lord wants me to do something different. But I know my wife definitely didn't want me being a police officer. So I did ASI. Was basically analyzing failure modes. I did it for the UH-1Y and H-1Z Marine helicopters. And we were subcontracted by Bell. And yeah, it was fun. But I was sitting in a cubicle, 10-hour days, 5 days a week, or 4 days a week, I'm sorry. And pay was good, $26 an hour. But I told my wife, I said, I've got to go do something else. I said, I'm just sitting here. I said, I can do more, I can help more, I can be more. And so I went back to school. I went there and finished up my AA and with FSCJ, or Florida State College of Jacksonville. And then I ended up going on with Columbia College there at the Navy campus and out in town, and I got my BA in Business Administration. And after that, we had some hard times there go down it. My wife's mom passed away. We had to get her house sold in California, and then I had my our house to get sold when we moved back here to have one built, and then my stepmom's passed away up here in the Verydale, and I had to get the old homestead fixed up because I was the only one that was retired that was able to do that because everybody else seemed to be working or busy. So I did that for a while. Now I'm my youngest just graduated. Get back to family. I got 4 sons. Lord blessed me with 4 sons. My oldest is special needs. He's 29 years old. I call him RJ. It's Ryan Jr. Then I got Jeremy. He's in the Navy. A boatswain's mate. Been in for, I believe it's 7 years now. He's a 2nd class. He's stationed in Jacksonville in Mayport. Timothy, he's in the Army. Been in, I think he said 4 or 5 years now. I always get it mixed up. They tell him I think I'm losing it with that stuff, but trying to keep up with them and the grandkids and everything else. But he's stationed in Georgia at Fort Stewart, and he's actually deployed right now. So he should be back shortly. And my youngest Christian graduated the previous year at Jay. And so, like I said, I've got nothing holding me back. Wife's still teaching special needs at East Milton Elementary. Sister's teaching. Brother just retired from animal control a couple years back. But like I said, I'm in it to help the people. The money thing, you know, we can do away with that. As far as I'm concerned, we can split it. I mean, that $60,000, $70,000 a year. If you're doing part-time jobs, you should be getting part-time work. So that's the way I look at it. I'm definitely big on term limits. Like I said, people get complacent. They're going to do all they're going to do probably in a couple of terms. After that, they're riding it out. They're riding that wave all the way to the bank. So anyway, not in it for the money, in it for the other reasons about, like you said, taking care of the people, making sure they've got what they want to live here, be here, and make this place the best it can be and will be for our grandkids and great-grandkids. And that's all I've been in it for from the beginning. I've had a lot of other people, jump in the race after me, and they've been fighting for a long time and all. But like I said, I'm strictly for the people, not about complaining, not about anything else other than making things right here. And like the watchdog thing that I've heard a bunch by Mr. Cooey, I appreciate all you've done here. And I've been the watchdog now for our country for a long time, and I'm back home ready to take over the lead to fix this place again, and that's why the Lord's got me in this position. And I'll keep fighting until tooth or nail until I do get in there to make this place the way it needs to be. That's all I've got to tell everybody. Thank y'all. God bless, and check me out on Facebook, and I'll definitely make this a place that y'all will be proud to call home.
Okay, Ryan Adkins, Republican candidate for County Commission District 3. Thank you. Okay, next up, Jerry Cooey, Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 3.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and for the time. I'm going to start out right in the beginning because I want to talk to Mr. Nichols right here. Mr. Nichols, I want to tell you that I've been talking about clean water in Santa Rosa County for a long time, not just because I started running for office last year. Without clean drinking water, there is no economic development. There is no future growth in Santa Rosa County. What I have proposed is that I will immediately ask that we start a watershed protection committee. We have many experts throughout the county that can help us in this endeavor. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify in the Land Development Code, which is a document that we're looking at now. We haven't looked at it in 20 years. We're looking at it finally again. Those protections to take care of our environment for future generations. That's one of the biggest places we can do that. I'm glad you said something about Pond Creek. Absolutely. I haven't been able to swim in Pond Creek for 40 years because we haven't taken care of that resource. And what I'm going to ask you, as part of the youth of America, to reach out there and find other people to bring that voice to the top so that the adults in the room will start paying a little more attention to the environment also. So I appreciate what you had to say there, and I appreciate your commitment about that. That's very important. I want to take a moment to thank the very patient Mrs. Cooey. I laughingly told her that today, let's give her a round of applause. Today, we've actually spent more time together than we have since last October in one single day. Pretty impressive to be in one room at the same time. We're almost done, Mrs. Cooey, about 10 more days, and we'll have the answer. Folks, I've been very blessed. I was blessed with parents that taught me right from wrong. They gave me corrections when I needed them. I was also blessed with grandparents that taught me a lot. My grandparents owned Cooey's Fish Camp on War Basin Road, and I'll tell you a little secret about Mrs. Cooey, or Mama Cooey as we referred to her. She was an excellent fisherman, but I want to assure you of one thing. The grass got cut, the dock got fixed, the chickens were fed, and the cow was taken care of before you had leisure activities. And the point I'm making is that I learned a work ethic from Mama Cooey. Playtime came after work time. Many great stories I could tell you about that life experience. My grandparents lived in the north end of the county, Hosea and Lily Sasser, and I'll tell you, I share a little bit about them. My grandfather always planted a family plot of food. But once again, here's the work ethic that comes in. You picked the crops for your family, and you picked everything up, and you got everything taken care of, and then you got your trip to Coldwater Creek and watermelon that afternoon. But work was taken care of before anything else. I have truly been blessed by the number of people in my life, coaches, mentors, teachers. It's just been an absolute, a wonderful life. But I often say, born by chance, but live here by choice, and one day I will be buried here. This is the county I love, and I want to be a part of this. I want to share with you, because this is kind of like a resume for a job. I'll tell you about myself. My parents started a pet shop in, I was 11 years old, 1971. They opened a pet shop in Santa Rosa County, named Jerry's Tropicals, and eventually expanded it to 2 stores. And I worked in that store at 11 years old. I was already selling things. I was already working with customers, and eventually took a bigger role in that. As many young men in Santa Rosa County, my first real job was with Mr. Ike Northrup at Piggly Wiggly. And I'll tell you, Mr. Northrup was a tough man, but Mr. Northrup turned a lot of young men into he turned a bunch of kids into adults, and I appreciated that. I went on, an opportunity came about with a large grocery corporation, and at the age of 21, I had already made it to management. And now the company's no longer with us, but it was Dale Shamps, and I truly enjoyed that. For the last 39 years, I've worked in the offshore energy business, and truly enjoyed it. Taking care of large, complex, multi-million-dollar properties. Been in charge of a lot of folks, direct reports, taking care of projects. During my time in industry, I had the opportunity I left with some 175 industry certificates from a wide range of things. I tell you all those things to let you know that I understand, and I've had a wide variety of experiences in my life. I'll tell you, the last 15 years, I was in charge of 2 major structures, direct reports of anywhere from 3 to sometimes as many as 70 people with an annual budget of $12 million. And I was responsible for the budgeting, for the spending, for the safety, environmental inspections. So I think I bring a lot of the table for that. I want to share with you something that's deeply personal to me. In 1973, I made a decision to turn my life to Jesus. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not a perfect man. I work every day to be a better person. But I hope that my light has shined and that my good deeds, you should know that I'm a Christian. I want you to know another thing, and it's been batted around a lot in this campaign. I will tell you that in 2016, I was the co-chairman of the Trump campaign. I didn't know if he could win or not, but I was on the locomotive of the Trump train. I handed out some of the first signs that was handed out in Santa Rosa County, and he has been a good president, and I expect him to continue to be a good president. I worked very hard in that campaign. I also want you to know that the First Amendment is very important to me. And I will share with you that I've been recognized at the local level, at the state level, and nationally for my work to protect your First Amendment right. But let me say this, I clearly understand that the Second Amendment is why we have the First Amendment. And I brought something tonight. I know the camera can't pick it up, but to show you my commitment, this is my militia card, Santa Rosa County militia card, 1994, one of the founding members of that organization. And folks, we were the only county in the state of Florida, and I think one of the first in the entire United States of America to do that. And that is very serious to me. We stand ready at any time our sheriff needs us. We will be there. I'm proud of the fact that we have made Santa Rosa County a Second Amendment sanctuary, but I want to tell you that's a good bit of ceremonial work there. And as your commissioner, I want you to know we're going to take it a little bit further. We know that our Second Amendment rights are always under assault, and there are many things that we can do. We need to have laws in our county that can be enacted that will protect us from unfair taxation of ammunition or a number of other things. So I want to make sure that we take that next step. I'll tell you, I want to share with you that, and a lot of people have heard me say this before, actions speak louder than words. And that means a lot to me. A lot of you received a mailer from me. My mailer about running for office is really about what I've already done for you. And it's a pattern of what I'm going to do for you in the future. For 20 years, I have been your citizen watchdog, and I've worked on a lot of many issues across this county. I'll tell you one that I think was most important was in our economic development organization, Team Santa Rosa. They were spending $600,000 a year of your money, and they had very little to show for it. And add insult to injury, they were violating the Sunshine Law, not having open meetings, and you couldn't get open records from them. I took that on. It took about 6 years to change that organization out, to get rid of them. I am very happy to tell you that I was also on the committee that decided how economic development was going to be done in the future. And we've been going the same direction since 2012. In Santa Rosa County, before COVID, was actually a full percentage point below our neighboring counties in unemployment. Now, we still need better job growth, and I will quickly identify that we have a lot of underemployed people. And everybody that's running for school board and everybody that's on the school board and everybody that's running for superintendent has already heard me tell them that Jerry Cooey, as county commissioner, is going to partner with our school district because it's a team effort. We need them, they need us, and I think it's very important that we move that way. for the last 20 years, I've fought against higher taxes. Now, I'll tell you, you've probably got a lot of flashy stuff that's been sent to your house that says, well, heck, I'm for lower taxes. Well, I'd like to point out to you that in 2004, when the BOCC tried to increase your millage rate, me and my friends filled the room to capacity. It was standing room only. There was some 380 people in the commission boardroom. And I would like to also point out to you that since that event, nobody's talked about raising your millage rate, have they? I think we sent a clear message to them on that night. In 2005, an attempt was made to have a 1-cent sales tax. I didn't agree with it. I was in a green truck that time, but it was the same yellow sign with no new taxes in the back of it, and I got out there and I made sure that it didn't happen. And most of our new residents know the blue truck with the yellow sign that says no new taxes in it. I did not agree with a 100% increase in the sales tax after they had only had it for 2 years. So most of you waved at me because I stayed 5 months out on the road, Highway 90, Highway 98, and Avalon Boulevard, and I worked Facebook for everything it was worth, and you all agreed with me. 67% against. That was the right thing to do. So to say you want lower taxes, that's fine, that's great. I think almost anybody would say that. But I've put the rubber on the road. You have lower taxes because I've taken the bull by the horns. I've got out there and fought against it and stopped it from happening. Finally, I've worked to ensure that you have open government. Folks, look, it's almost weekly that I have to deal with something where somebody's asked for public records and they get hassled about it. I got hassled this week. I will be having a conversation with the county attorney. It's unacceptable. We know what the rules of the road are. I think I have clearly demonstrated over 20 years that I have your best interest in heart. I'm retired now. I'm financially independent and I don't owe one single person a favor. My opinion is not going to come into play on how I vote. We have multiple sources available to us on how we can find out what the citizens want, and that's how I'm going to vote, folks. I will represent you, the silent majority, which you have sorely been needing for over 20 years. My name is Jerry Cooey, County Commissioner, District 3. If you'd like to learn more about me, go to COUEY2020.com, and I appreciate your time.
All right, Jerry Cooey, Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 3. Next up, Gage Schlegel, Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 3.
Hello, everyone, and I'd like to thank everybody that put this event on tonight, especially during this challenging and historic time that we're having. My name's Gage Schlegel. I'm a Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 3, and here's some things that I'd like to go over with everybody. A little bit about myself. I'm 25 years old. I played many roles in that time. Most recently, I worked as a realtor, though I put my license in an active status to pursue my passion in improving the community where my family and I call home. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Jessica, and this September marks 5 years together with the most supportive woman I could ever imagine. I have 4 wonderful children, Paisley, Callie, Jalen, and Dallas. Like many of you, I'm an avid outdoorsman that enjoys taking advantages of the beautiful wildlife in our area. That includes hunting, fishing, and participating in some of the many festivals the community offers throughout the years. When I'm not working or spending time with my family, I'd like to give back to those less fortunate than myself. I often work with friends, along with many other volunteers, providing food to families that may have found themselves falling on hard times. My biggest passion is combining my love of family and giving back. I have had the pleasure of coaching several youth baseball teams out at Para over the past 4 years. And enough about myself. Let's get to some things I'd like to address. Flood mitigation and infrastructure, that's a big one. Our roads are becoming overcrowded, so are our wonderful schools. It seems somewhere is flooding every time we turn around. I have solutions, though. For our infrastructure, I will work with state and federal legislators, as well as FDOT and our local transportation planning organization, to make sure that we get our infrastructure back on track. I will account for all funding, whether it comes from impact fees, lost gas, or property taxes, and I will try my hardest to secure every grant that's possible in order to save taxpayers money. We must become less reliant on our property tax dollars and focus more on impact fees and appropriate levels of taxation, and increased revenue from our tourism to create more jobs and allow for funding our great infrastructure. When I see a drainage issue, I will no longer kick the can down the road. As we have seen with our current administration, I'm going to get out there, rain, snow, sleet, or shine, and try my hardest with other county officials to get solutions drawn up to get these issues fixed as soon as possible. It doesn't matter where these issues are. I will work with any commissioner and make sure every part of our county gets what they deserve. For public safety, I always intend to give Sheriff Johnson or any sheriff whatever it takes to keep our county as safe as it can possibly be. While we have not had any widespread issues with our police force, I am a firm advocate for supporting our police officers and believe that the answer is never decreased funding, but rather increased training and maintaining accountability for our officers patrolling our streets. For economic development, we have an abundance of resources available to us to enhance our growth in the coming decades. We have access to large interstate systems, I-10, I-65, and I-75, as well as an exceptional railway system. We have remarkable fiber optic networking throughout our county. The stage is set for many growing types of industries, including the technology sector. We must begin to work with our schools to provide a skilled workforce for these companies to select top talent from as well. To that end, I will work with the school board to get a technical school on the southern end of the county while we have an exceptional education system, including access to higher education at PSC and UWF. The truth is that college is not the path for all of the youth in our county. I attended Laughlin Technical Institute to obtain an electrical degree, and while I do not use that in my day-to-day work, I have many friends that make their living through HVAC and electrical industries. I envision a system that provides their children an exceptional education, offers different paths to make a living as an adult, and an abundance of professions for those skilled and educated workers for tomorrow to make their way into the world. To that end, I will give tax breaks incentives to any industry to help offset the cost to come into our wonderful county. For trash, if elected, I will start working now to try to figure out a solution to our trash issue. I've given multiple ideas online and don't have the time to quite touch everything I'd like to on that. But we have 5 years now to start to try to figure out a trash solution to put more service back in for our hard-earned dollars. And I have a couple other things I want to go over. I had to type the topics in here. Growth management. We're definitely growing. We know that that's going to happen, and we want to be growing because if we don't grow, we're dying. And my thing with growth management is if I'm your commissioner, I'm going to make sure that everything is put into place. I'm going to have a 2, 5, 10 year, maybe a 30-year plan, because right now all we have is a 30-minute plan, and they're not worried about what's happening 10 years from now. They're worried about what's going to happen in 30 minutes, and they're not looking into the future. So I'm going to make sure that I do whatever's best, whatever makes sure our infrastructure is in place, our drainage is in place, so when the growth does happen, we're not looking at our roads and wondering why they're overcrowded, looking at our schools and wondering why they're overcrowded. I want the system to be in place for multiple years into the future so we don't have to worry about that problem. The environment, and like you mentioned, Britton, talking about Pond Creek and everything. Right now, the state handles anything to do with the septic tank. That's a statewide system, but I would like the county to look into that because I've known many people, when their leach lines went bad, all they did was they ran the pipe right into the river. And that's why we have the problem with Pond Creek. That's why it's so polluted. Because I'm not saying a septic tank isn't an answer. No, some people are going to have septic tanks for where that they live. But in town, where we can put, where they can get on the Milton water system or the Pace water system, they need to. Because their older systems is what's polluting our waterways, and we need to put an end to that. On outsourcing, in the last debate, I heard that if there was a budget issue, we would outsource jobs or look into laying people off and everything. And like I told my competitor that day, it's easy to sit there and say, hey, I'll outsource a job when you already have 2 full-time pensions, when your insurance is guaranteed no matter whether you leave tomorrow or not, and when you have a 401k. These workers, when you outsource, you're not getting the best of the best that we currently have. You're getting somebody that we're going to pay minimum wage to, and they're not taking that job. They don't love that job. That's just another job for them. They can go out tomorrow and find another job that pays minimum wage. That's why we have to keep our county workers paid good. We have to continue to make sure they have a pension, health care, and 401k, and take care of them, because that's our workforce. Those are our brothers and sisters, and there's no reason that we should outsource. We should always look for a different way in the budget to take care of our people. And last but not least is, if I'm elected, and I've been the only one that said this, I'm not doing this for the money. I intend to donate half of my first year's salary to different parks, charities, and recreations throughout this wonderful county, because that's what I want to do. I want to help as much as I can. Is there any questions?
Do we have any questions from the floor? All right, well then I've got a few. These were submitted by those in attendance earlier. What is your opinion of the new garbage collection plan?
I think I answered that in the speech, but I don't agree with it. But we're stuck in it for the next 5 years, so let's start to look for solutions. We have 5 years to look for a solution. Let's not wait till we have 6 months left. So if I get in, I'm going to start on day one looking for a solution, not waiting till, hey, they informed us we got 3 months left and they're not going to be our partner no more. No, I'm going to make sure that we have our next trash solution, whether it's through in-house or whether we end up choosing another company to do it. I'm going to have that figured out within my first year.
Okay, can you give some examples and elaborate on them of things that you have already done for the citizens of Santa Rosa County?
I have coached youth sports on multiple occasions, football or flag football. I've helped with basketball. I donate my time up at my kids' schools, at their private schools. I've helped with food raising friends to ensure that people that might not have had food here recently, and so that they could have food. And I've helped to take care of just doing stuff like that, volunteering.
What, if any, changes need to be made to the animal services program in Santa Rosa County?
Well, I do believe that there is some changes that need to be made, and I don't know what their funding is as of yet, but I would like to see a spay and neuter shelter, or at least a low-cost one, and I believe that there should be one down on the south end of the county too, because having a hub up here in Milton, if somebody does make a call and says, hey, there's a stray dog out on the road down on Highway 98, by the time that officer gets down there and gets a chance to catch that dog, it may have already been hit. You don't know what's going to happen to it. So if we have another sector down there on the south end of the county, we could get to it and process these calls faster.
What is your position on tax increases?
I always believe that we should leave a tax increase up to the people. For millage rates, I would not like to see a millage rate increase unless it was absolutely needed. I do believe we have a spending problem, and I would like to look into the budget and get the spending issues figured out. And if I'm elected, I would definitely like to have an audit as soon as I get in to see where our money has been going and see what has been happening to it. But if it's a tax increase, I'd rather see a local option sales tax, because at least with a local option sales tax, it is not coming out of all our homeowners' pockets. Our tourism is going to help take care of the funding issues.
And if the voters did not approve a tax increase, what would you do to deal with a budget shortfall?
Well, everyone's just going to have to tighten their belt then. You know, the sheriff might lose funding. The tax collectors, you know, they're going to lose some funding. Everyone's going to lose some funding then, because right now our main focus should be getting back to infrastructure. So it's going to be, just going to have to cut services. So I would hope that they would approve it, but if it doesn't happen, we're going to have to look into cutting services.
All right, this question was asked earlier, but it's appropriate to ask again. We are a diversified county in Santa Rosa County. Jay is different than Navarro, which is different than Gulf Breeze, which is different than Milton. What are your plans to deal with each district as being equally important to the county?
I don't care where you live in the county, whether you live in Jay, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Milton, Pace. If you call me and you have a problem and you can't get a hold of your commissioner for some reason, or they're not taking care of it, trust me, I'm going to put it under my workload. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to go meet with you, see what the problem is, and try to figure out a solution, and work with the commissioner in those districts also that isn't mine, and see why they're not taking care of it, and just try to take care of the problem as soon as possible and swiftly.
What projects would you like to see funded by Triumph Gulf Coast with the Restore Act money?
Restore Act money, I would like to see that stay in the south end of the county, because they were the ones that was affected by the oil spill. I believe Navarre Beach, Gulf Breeze should be able to use that money. I know countywide we could use some of it, but just projects like, I know they're going to need a bridge here in Navarre here soon. I'd like to see maybe some of that money go to funding that. There's a lot of things down on the south end of the county that needs done. I guess maybe we could work with the state on Highway 98, getting it widened from Midway to the county line, Okaloosa County line, so it can finally be 3-laned.
What, if anything, does Santa Rosa County need to do to protect the military mission of Whiting Field?
Can you repeat that?
What, if anything, does Santa Rosa County need to do to protect the military mission of Whiting Field?
We just have to continue to work with the Navy. If they ask us for something, we got to give it to them. If those are important jobs for our county, and those are tax-paying citizens also. So if Whiting Field comes to us and asks and says they need a buffer, we need to do whatever we can to give it to them.
Okay, very good. You've got a few more seconds if you want to wrap it up, and then we'll bring our event to a conclusion.
Those were just a few of the issues, and I mean, I answered a lot of questions, and I know I probably could have answered them a lot better, but sometimes you don't know all the answers, and not everyone does. The only person who knows all the answers is God. So we leave it up to him. But if you do like what I say and you do like what I stand for, please consider me next Tuesday, August 18th, and please give me your vote.
Okay, Gage Schlegel, Republican candidate for County Commissioner District 3. So that does wrap up our event this evening. We want to thank you for coming out. We do have the door prizes we're going to be giving away, but because we added a candidate that wasn't already on the agenda, it kind of squeezed our time, which means we got to be out of here in 5 minutes. So while I'm calling names, they're going to be disconnecting the sound system. I got a big enough voice, trust me, you'll be able to hear me, but they're going to disconnect the internet feed, they're going to disconnect the sound system. If I call your name, it means you won a door prize, come on up and claim it.